Standing in my childhood kitchen at 23, I watched my father's face turn purple with rage. "Get out and stay out," he roared, slamming his fist on the granite counter. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes cold as winter. My crime. Dropping out of Stanford Law after secretly building a tech company. They thought they were throwing out a failure. They had no idea their disappointment of a daughter was worth $15 million. Tomorrow, everything would change. The silence that followed my father's outburst felt heavier than any verdict he'd ever delivered from his judge's bench. Richard Harrison had spent 30 years commanding courtrooms, and now he turned that same intimidating presence on me, his oldest child. The kitchen of our Pacific Heights home had witnessed countless family dinners, birthday celebrations, and holiday gatherings. Tonight, it became a battlefield. 3 years, he said, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper I remembered from childhood when I'd really crossed a line. 3 years of Stanford Law School tuition, over $200,000, and you're telling me you're just walking away. My mother, Patricia, stepped forward from behind him, where his anger burned hot. Hers froze the air around us. 25 years as a corporate lawyer had taught her how to destroy opponents with surgical precision. "Anais, darling," she began her endearment, sharp as broken glass, "perhaps you don't understand what you're doing. The Harrison family has produced lawyers for 4 generations. Your great-grandfather founded one of San Francisco's most prestigious firms. This isn't just about you." I kept my hand steady on the kitchen island's marble surface, drawing strength from its coolness. "I understand perfectly. I'm choosing a different path. Technology is the future, and I've found my calling there." Technology. Richard's laugh held no humor. "You mean those little apps you play with on your phone? That's what you're throwing away your future for?" From the doorway, I caught movement. Marcus, my 20-year-old brother, hovered in the shadows. Second year at Berkeley pre-law track, everything our parents wanted. His eyes met mine for a moment before darting away. "It's not playing," I said, keeping my voice level. "I've built something real, something that matters to people." Patricia's perfectly manicured nails clicked against her wineglass. "Build something, Anais. You can barely manage your course load. Professor Williams called last week, concerned about your attendance. You're clearly overwhelmed." "Professor Williams doesn't know what I do outside his classroom." "And what exactly is that?" Richard moved closer, using his height advantage. "Because from where we're standing, it looks like our daughter is having some sort of breakdown. Dropping out 3 months before graduation. This isn't rational behavior." The folder I'd brought sat on the counter between us. My proof, my vindication, my escape route. But something held me back from opening it. Maybe it was the way they looked at me, like I was already lost to them. Or perhaps it was Marcus still watching from his safe distance. "I'm not having a breakdown," I said. "I'm making a conscious choice about my life." "Your life." Patricia set down her glass with deliberate force. "Your life has been carefully planned since before you were born. The best schools, the right connections, summers interning at distinguished firms. Do you know how many strings your father pulled to get you into Stanford Law?" "Strings I never asked him to pull." The slap came from nowhere. Not physical, but Patricia's words hit just as hard. "You ungrateful child. Do you know how many young women would kill for the opportunities you're so casually discarding?" Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something shifted in his expression. "That's Edgar Williams now. He's deeply concerned about your mental state. Says you've been talking to yourself in the library, staying there until security closes the building." "I was on phone calls," I protested. "Business calls." "Business calls?" Richard repeated the words like they tasted bitter. "Patricia, I think our concerns were justified. This delusion has gone too far." Delusion! The word hit me like ice water. "What concerns? What are you talking about?" My parents exchanged a look I'd never seen before. Patricia opened her mouth, then closed it, choosing her words carefully. We've been worried about you for months, darling. The missed classes, the strange hours, the way you've isolated yourself from your law school friends. We've consulted some professionals, Richard added, people who specialize in helping young adults who lose their way. The room tilted. Consulted professionals, you've been talking to therapists about me, without me there. Psychiatrists, actually, Patricia corrected. Dr. Harrison, no relation, despite the name comes highly recommended. He agrees that intervention might be necessary. Intervention for what? For choosing my own career. Marcus finally stepped into the light. Anais, they're just worried about you. We all are. Oh, well, worried enough to go behind my back to discuss my mental health with strangers? My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. Richard pulled out his phone again. I'm calling Dr. Harrison now. He said he could admit you tonight if necessary. Admit me. The reality crashed over me. You're trying to have me committed. It's not like that, Patricia said, but her eyes said otherwise. It's a wellness retreat, a place where you can rest. Get your head clear, remember what's important. What's important to you, you mean. Get out! Richard's roar shook the designer light fixtures. If you won't accept help, then get out and stay out. No daughter of mine throws away everything we've built for some internet fantasy. I looked at each of them. My father red-faced with fury and something else, fear maybe. My mother calculating her next move like this was just another negotiation. Marcus, my baby brother who wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. Fine, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I'll go. If you walk out that door, Patricia warned, don't expect to walk back in. We'll freeze your trust fund, cancel your credit cards, remove you from the will. You'll have nothing. I picked up my folder still unopened. They thought they knew everything about their daughter. They thought their money was my lifeline. They had no idea who I'd become while they were planning my future. I understand, I said. I'll pack my things. As I headed for the stairs, I heard Patricia whisper to Richard, call Dr. Harrison. Tell him we might need those papers after all. In my childhood bedroom, surrounded by law school textbooks I'd never open again and family photos that now felt like lies, I packed quickly. The essentials only, my laptop, some clothes, the few personal items that mattered. Everything else belonged to Anais Harrison, future lawyer. I was leaving her behind. My phone buzzed. Sarah, my best friend since high school. How did it go? I'm coming over, I typed back. It's done. As I carried my suitcase downstairs, I found them huddled in Richard's study. Marcus saw me first, his face a mix of guilt and confusion. Patricia emerged holding a document. We've prepared a voluntary admission form, she said. Sign this, get the help you need, and we can forget tonight happened. I looked at the paper. Voluntary psychiatric hold. Reason for admission, delusional thinking, grandiose beliefs, erratic behavior. You already filled it out, I observed. Just needed my signature. We're trying to help you, Richard insisted, but his eyes kept flicking to his phone. Another message from Professor Williams. Or was it Dr. Harrison, waiting with an empty bed and strong medications? No, I said simply. You're trying to control me. There's a difference. I walked past them, past the family portraits lining the hallway, past 23 years of expectations and predetermined paths. At the front door, I turned back one last time. Patricia stood at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the chandelier. You'll be back, she called. When your little fantasy falls apart, you'll come crawling back, but the offer for help expires at midnight. After that, you're on your own. I shifted my suitcase to my other hand and reached for the doorknob. They thought they were casting out a failure, a delusional daughter who'd lost her way. If only they knew the truth about the folder still tucked under my arm. If only they knew who they were really throwing away. But they'd find out soon enough. The whole world would. Sarah's apartment in the Mission District couldn't have been more different from my parents' Pacific Heights mansion. Where they had marble and crystal, she had exposed brick and mismatched furniture. Where they had silence and careful words, she had warmth and honesty. Her roommate was out for the night, leaving us the small living room that doubled as a dining area and home office. They actually tried to have you committed. Sarah poured wine into mason jars, her hands shaking with anger. Your own parents. I curled up on her salvaged leather couch, finally allowing myself to process what had happened. They had the papers ready, all filled out, just needed my signature to make it look voluntary. That's insane. You're the sanest person I know. Not according to Professor Williams. Apparently, I talked to myself in the library. Sarah snorted. You mean when you're on those investor calls, the ones that made you a millionaire? And there it was. The secret I'd been carrying for 2 years. The double life that had exhausted me more than any law school exam ever could. While my classmates studied torts and contracts, I'd been building something extraordinary. While my parents planned my future at their country club, I'd been creating my own. 15 million, actually, I corrected. The Series B funding closed last week. Sarah nearly dropped her wine. Wait, what? Last I heard you were at 8 million valuation. That was before Wellness Week featured us. I pulled out my laptop, showing her the numbers I'd memorized. Sleep Sound hit #1 in the health apps category, 300,000 active users. Premium subscriptions growing 40% month over month. The story tumbled out, maybe because I finally could tell it without fear. It had started so simply. Second year of law school, I couldn't sleep. The pressure, the expectations, the constant competition had my mind racing every night. Traditional meditation apps felt too generic, too disconnected from what I was experiencing. So I built my own, I explained, just for me at first, guided meditations specifically for high-pressure students and young professionals. Real situations, real stress, real solutions. I remember, Sarah said, you were coding until 4 in the morning, then showing up to constitutional law at 8. That nearly killed me. But then other students started asking about it. My study group people who saw me using it in the library. Within a month, I had 50 beta users. The transformation from personal project to business had been gradual, then sudden. A tech blogger discovered it wrote about the Stanford Law student solving Silicon Valley's insomnia epidemic. Downloads exploded overnight. But the real breakthrough, I continued, was when Jessica Chen found us. The actress, she couldn't sleep during her Broadway run. Her assistant found Sleep Sound, and it became part of her pre-show routine. One Instagram story from her, and we gained 100,000 users in a week. Sarah refilled our glasses. And your parents knew none of this. How could I tell them, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm building the company you'll hate, while pretending to become the lawyer you demand? They would have pulled me out of school immediately. So you just lived 2 lives. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You have no idea. Law classes during the day sometimes, board meetings over Zoom at night, flying to Sand Hill Road for investor pitches between mock trials. I had 2 phones, 2 calendars, 2 completely different versions of myself. That explains why you disappeared sometimes. I thought you were just studying hard. I was, just not law. I pulled up the incorporation documents. I had to form an LLC to hide my identity from investors initially. They all thought I was some tech bro named Alex who was camera shy. It wasn't until Series A that I revealed myself. And they were fine with it. It's fine. They loved it. A Stanford Law student building a mental health empire. The press ate it up. Well, the tech press. I made sure none of it reached traditional media where my parents might see. Sarah studied the numbers on my screen. 15 million valuation. How much do you actually have? I maintained 60% equity. After taxes and everything, my stake is worth about 15 million. But that's not the best part. I switched to another tab. Remember how I always complained about not having a place to think? You didn't. Last month, closed on a house in Malibu. Ocean view, private beach access, completely under an LLC, so my parents couldn't trace it. I've been furnishing it slowly, planning to reveal everything after graduation. Show me pictures immediately. I pulled up the photos Rachel, my assistant, had sent. The modern glass and wood structure perched on the cliffs designed for contemplation and creativity. The office where I'd run my company openly instead of hiding in library corners. The meditation room where I tested new content for the app. "This is insane," Sarah breathed. "You're 23 and you own this." The universe works in mysterious ways. While my parents were planning my life, I was building my own. While they consulted psychiatrists about my delusions, I was signing contracts worth millions. But why hide it until now? I thought about that. The real answer was complicated. Part of it was fear, knowing how my parents would react. Part was strategy, wanting to be too successful to stop before revealing anything. But mostly, I wanted their approval, I admitted. Some stupid part of me thought if I could just finish law school, make them proud, then show them what else I'd accomplished, they'd understand. They'd see I could honor the family tradition and still be myself. Instead, they tried to lock you up. Instead, they tried to lock you up, I repeated. The absurdity of it hit me. While they prepared psychiatric hold papers, I had a board meeting scheduled for Monday. While they froze my trust fund, I had millions in assets they knew nothing about. My phone buzzed. Rachel working late as always. Tomorrow's schedule confirmed. Movers at 8 a.m., interior designer at 10, chronicle interview at 2. Should I postpone given tonight's events? Herb. I looked at the message then, at Sarah, then at the photos of my Malibu sanctuary. My parents thought they'd exiled me. In reality, they'd set me free. Actually, I typed back, let's move everything up. I want to be in the house by noon. Sarah read over my shoulder. You're really doing this. No more hiding. No more hiding, I agreed. They wanted me out. They've got it. Tomorrow, Anais Harrison, the failed law student, disappears. Anais Mitchell, the CEO, takes her place. Mitchell. My grandmother's maiden name. She was the only one who ever told me to follow my own path. I closed the laptop, finally feeling the weight of exhaustion. Can I crash here tonight one last night before everything changes? Of course. But first, tell me more about this assistant and the board meetings and how you convinced investors you were some tech bro named Alex. So I told her everything. The late nights coding until my eyes burned, the panic of my first investor pitch, the imposter syndrome that hit every time someone called me CEO, the joy of watching user testimonials, people whose lives changed because they could finally sleep, the careful dance of keeping my two worlds separate using meditation techniques from my own app to stay calm during family dinners, where Richard bragged about my law school performance. David knew something was up, I admitted as we moved to make up the couch for me. My ex had this weird intuition. David the creep who transferred to your dad's firm? That's the one. He kept showing up at weird times, asking strange questions. I thought I was paranoid, but he definitely suspected I was hiding something. Good thing you broke up with him last year. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. I gestured at everything around us. This is the best. Sarah hugged me tight. I'm proud of you, and slightly terrified of you. 15 million. That's insane. Want to know the really insane part? I pulled back, grinning for the first time all night. This is just the beginning. The features we're launching next quarter. The partnership with that major healthcare provider. We're projecting 50 million valuation by year end. Your parents are idiots. They're not idiots, they're just blind. They can only see the path they know, the life they planned. Anything outside that must be insanity. I yawned, the adrenaline finally wearing off. Tomorrow's gonna be interesting. Understatement of the century. Hey, do you need me to come with you? For moral support. Thanks, but no. This is something I need to do alone. Besides, you have work. As I settled onto the couch with borrowed pajamas and a head full of plans, my phone lit up with messages. Marcus, are you okay? They're acting crazy. I didn't respond. He'd chosen his side by staying silent. Then a text from an unknown number. Heard about tonight. Offer still stands. Dr. Harrison. They'd given the psychiatrist my phone number. The violation of it, the assumption that I'd come crawling back, seeking the help they'd prescribed. I blocked the number and set my phone aside. Tomorrow, I'd wake up in this small apartment for the last time. Tomorrow, the movers would transfer my real life from storage units and secret offices to a mansion my parents couldn't imagine I owned. Tomorrow, the carefully constructed walls between my two selves would finally crumble. But tonight, I fell asleep to the sound of San Francisco traffic and Sarah's roommate coming home late, feeling more at peace than I had in years. My parents had given me an ultimatum, thinking they held all the cards. They had no idea the game had changed, and I held a royal flush. California. Highway 1 stretched before me like a promise, the Pacific Ocean glittering under the morning sun. I'd left Sarah's apartment before dawn, too excited to sleep any longer. My Tesla Model S, purchased under my company name and hidden in a private garage, hummed quietly as I drove toward my new life. The leather seats still smelled new, nothing like the ancient Volvo my parents had grudgingly allowed me to drive during high school. Rachel had texted updates throughout the early morning hours. The movers had arrived at my various storage units across the Bay Area, collecting 2 years' worth of carefully hidden possessions. Office furniture from the workspace I'd rented under a shell company, recording equipment for creating meditation content, servers and technical equipment, the physical manifestation of my double life all converging on one address. As I passed through Santa Barbara, my phone rang through the car's speakers. Board member Catherine Anderson, one of the few people who knew my whole story. Heard you finally pulled the trigger, her voice filled the car. How are you holding up? Better than expected. Free, actually. Good. We need you focused. Monday's board meeting is crucial. The healthcare partnership depends on showing stability. Nothing says stability like a CEO who owns a $15 million beach house. Catherine laughed. Fair point. Your assistant sent over the interview questions from the Chronicle. You ready to go, public? 3 years of hiding is enough. Time for Sleep Sound to have a real face. Just remember, control the narrative. Your parents will have their version once this breaks. My parents. I'd managed not to think about them for nearly an hour. Let them. While they were preparing commitment papers, I was preparing for an IPO. That's my girl. See you Monday. The call ended as I turned onto the private road leading to my house. My house. The words still felt foreign. 23 years old, and I owned a piece of Malibu coastline that tech executives twice my age coveted. The security gate recognized my car sliding open to reveal the winding driveway I'd only seen in photos. Then it appeared, and every photo had undersold it. Glass walls reflected the ocean, making it impossible to tell where the house ended and the horizon began. Natural wood and stone grounded the modern architecture, preventing it from feeling cold. This wasn't just a house. It was a sanctuary, a headquarters, a declaration of independence. Rachel emerged from the front door, tablet in hand, looking like efficiency personified. At 28, she'd left a Big Four accounting firm to join my startup, believing in the vision when it was just sketches and dreams. Welcome home, she said, allowing herself a rare smile. The movers are setting up your office. Interior designer is running late, stuck in traffic. I've pushed the Chronicle interview to 3 to give you time to settle. I stepped out of the car, breathing salt air and freedom. Any calls from San Francisco? 17 missed calls from a Patricia Harrison. 12 from Richard Harrison. Various texts escalating from concern to threats. I've documented everything as you requested. And Marcus? 1 text. Please call me. I handed her my personal phone. Block them all. This number is for business only now. We walked through the front door and I stopped breathing. The foyer opened into a great room with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the Pacific. Morning light flooded the space, highlighting the clean lines and natural materials. Minimalist but warm, exactly as I'd requested. "Your meditation room is ready," Rachel said, leading me through the house. I had them prioritize it. She opened a door to reveal a circular room with windows on 3 sides. Ocean, sky, and mountains created a natural triptych. In the center, a custom platform for recording surrounded by acoustic panels that looked like abstract art. "This is perfect." I ran my hand over the equipment. "We can create content here that our users have never experienced." The tech team is excited. They're already planning the CEO series featuring your personal meditations. We continued the tour. The office with its standing desk facing the ocean and walls ready for whiteboards and strategy sessions. The conference room where I'd host board meetings without pretending to be someone else. The bedroom suite that was larger than Sarah's entire apartment. Your closet. Rachel opened double doors to reveal a space already filled with clothes. "I took the liberty of having your stylist stock it. You have interviews coming up. The law student wardrobe won't cut it anymore." I fingered the designer blazers, the elegant dresses, the CEO uniform I dreamed about wearing openly. No more sneaking into bathroom stalls to change between classes and meetings. "The Journal called while you were driving," Rachel continued. "They want to know if the rumors about your family connections are true. Apparently, someone leaked that you're Judge Harrison's daughter." That was fast. "Your father is well known in legal circles. It was bound to come out." I considered this. Part of me had hoped to control that revelation, but maybe it was better this way. Tell them I'll address it in the interview, full transparency. We reached the kitchen where a chef's dream of appliances waited. I'd never learned to cook properly, always eating law school cafeteria food or takeout between coding sessions. Now I had time to learn. "Oh," Rachel said, checking her tablet. "Security flagged something. A car drove by 3 times this morning, slowing at the gate. Silver Audi, couldn't get the plates." A chill ran through me despite the warm morning. "My ex drives a silver Audi." "David Martinez, the one who works for your father." "The same." I moved to the window, scanning the visible portion of the road. "He's probably trying to confirm I actually live here." "Should I alert the security company?" "Yes, and have them keep logs of any suspicious vehicles. If my parents are investigating, I want documentation." The movers arrived with another truck carrying furniture I'd bought online during late-night study breaks. Real furniture, not the temporary solutions I'd lived with for 3 years. As they worked, I wandered onto the deck, feeling the ocean breeze that would now be part of my daily life. My phone buzzed with a Google alert. Someone had updated my LinkedIn profile to show I'd dropped out of Stanford Law. The change had been made from an IP address in Pacific Heights. My parents weren't wasting time trying to humiliate me professionally. "Ma'am," one of the movers appeared. "Where would you like the servers your assistant said you'd know?" I followed him to the climate-controlled room I designated as our backup data center. Every meditation, every user interaction, every piece of code that built my company would have a physical home here. No more relying solely on cloud storage, no more vulnerability. As they installed the equipment, I thought about the contrast. Last night, my parents had tried to lock me in a psychiatric ward. Today, I was installing servers worth more than my abandoned trust fund. The irony was sharp enough to cut. Anais Rachel appeared with a young woman in designer jeans and a blazer. "This is Monica Chen from the Chronicle." "I thought we moved it to 3. Monica smiled. "We did, but your story is exploding online. Someone leaked that Stanford Law's top student dropped out to run a tech company. My editor wants exclusive access before everyone else piles on." I glanced at Rachel, who shrugged. The narrative was already escaping our control. Give me 30 minutes to change," I said. "We'll do the interview on the deck. And Monica, make sure you get shots of the ocean. I want every law student who reads this to see there's another way." As she'd set up with her photographer, I retreated to my new bedroom. The closet full of CEO clothes waited, but I reached for something else first. my laptop already connected to the house's premium internet. I logged into Sleep Sound's backend, watching real-time user data flow across the screen. 300,000 people finding peace through something I'd built. 300,000 proving my parents wrong with every download, every subscription, every 5-star review. The numbers blurred as tears finally came. Not sadness, relief. A knock on the door, Rachel holding a particular blazer. "For the photos," she said simply, "navy photographs well against the ocean." I took it, noticing the designer label, $3,000 for a single jacket, more than my parents had given me for an entire semester's living expenses, forcing me to code frantically to make ends meet. Now it was just Tuesday's wardrobe. "Your parents called the office," Rachel added quietly. "They wanted to know if you were having a mental health episode. I told them to direct all communication through legal channels." "Do we need lawyers?" "Already handled. Steinberg and Associates is on retainer. They specialize in family disputes involving high net worth individuals." High net worth individual. That was me now. Not the struggling law student surviving on caffeine and determination, but someone who could hire specialists to handle family drama. I dressed carefully, adding subtle makeup that would photograph well. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the exhausted girl who'd fled her parents' house 12 hours ago. This woman owned her life, her company, her future. Monica waited on the deck, her photographer already capturing the house's spectacular angles. I settled into a chair, positioned to show both my face and the endless ocean behind me. Let's start with the obvious. Monica began her recorder app running. "Why did you leave Stanford Law 3 months before graduation?" I looked directly at her, then at the camera, imagining every law student who would read this. Every young person whose parents had planned their life without asking their opinion. "Because I had already found my verdict," I said, "and it wasn't in a courtroom." The interview flowed from there. My struggle with insomnia, the birth of Sleep Sound, the impossible juggling act of 2 lives. Monica asked probing questions about my family, which I answered carefully, professionally. No bitterness, no anger, just facts. "Your father is Judge Richard Harrison," she said, "one of the most respected legal minds in California. How does he feel about your decision?" "You'd have to ask him," I replied, "but I imagine it's difficult when your child chooses a path you didn't plan." "Sources say you've been building this company for 2 years in secret. Why hide it?" I gestured at the ocean, gathering my thoughts. When you grow up in a family of lawyers, deviation isn't just discouraged, it's seen as betrayal. I hope to finish law school to honor that tradition while still pursuing my passion. In the end, I couldn't serve 2 masters. "And now, what's next for Sleep Sound?" This was easier. I talked about our expansion plans, the healthcare partnerships, the vision of making mental health support accessible to everyone. Monica's eyes widened when I mentioned the valuation, the user numbers, the trajectory toward IPO. "One last question," she said as the photographer captured candid shots. "Any regrets?" I thought about Marcus, probably in class right now, pretending our family was normal. About my parents who'd chosen control over connection. About the girl I'd been yesterday, exhausted from living a double life. "No," I said firmly. "Sometimes the best gift your family can give you is showing you exactly who you don't want to become." After they left, I stood alone on my deck, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. My phone showed 53 missed calls from blocked numbers. The Chronicle's social media was already teasing tomorrow's feature story. Rachel had forwarded interview requests from TechCrunch, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. I'd wanted to control the narrative, but stories have their own momentum. Tomorrow, my parents would wake to find their daughter's face in the business section instead of the legal announcements they'd imagined. Their colleagues would whisper. Their carefully constructed image would crack. But tonight in my Malibu sanctuary, I opened my laptop and got back to work. 300,000 users were depending on me to help them sleep peacefully. I intended to make it 3 million by year's end. The call came at 7 in the morning, just as I finished my first meditation recording in the new studio. The sunrise had painted the ocean gold, and I'd captured that piece in 20 minutes of guided visualization. My users would love it, but the name on my phone screen shattered the calm Aunt Charlotte. Charlotte Montgomery, my mother's sister, had always been the reasonable one. Where Patricia chose law, Charlotte chose psychology. Where my mother wielded words like weapons, Charlotte offered understanding. If anyone could bridge this family divide, it would be her. Anais, darling, her voice carried forced brightness. I just saw the Chronicle article. My goodness, you've been busy. I saved the audio file and moved to the kitchen where morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows. News travels fast. Your mother called at 5 a.m. She's beside herself. Is she? I pulled out the coffee maker, a complicated Italian machine I was still learning to operate. Yesterday, she was ready to have me committed. Today, she's upset I'm successful. She's worried about you. We all are. The coffee maker gurgled, releasing the aroma of beans shipped from a small Costa Rican farm. Another luxury I could afford now, another world away from law school instant coffee. Charlotte, I'm fine, better than fine. I'm living my actual life instead of the performance they scripted. That's what concerns us. Her therapist's training showed in the careful neutrality. This seems like such a dramatic shift. Dropping out so close to graduation, moving away suddenly, these grand claims about your company. Grand claims, I nearly dropped my mug. Charlotte, did you read the article? The valuation is verified. The user numbers are real. Forbes is fact-checking for a feature next week. I know, dear, but sometimes when we're under stress, we can construct elaborate... She paused, choosing words carefully. Alternative narratives. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Even Charlotte, the reasonable one, thought I was delusional. You think I'm making this up? I think you're a brilliant young woman who's been under tremendous pressure. Sometimes that pressure can manifest in unexpected ways. I set down the mug harder than necessary. What did they tell you, that I'm having a psychotic break, that I'm imagining being a CEO? Your father mentioned you've been secretive, staying out all night, missing classes. Your brother said you've been acting paranoid, talking about people following you. Because someone has been following me, the words exploded out. David, my ex, has been stalking my movements for months. He drove by here 3 times yesterday. Silence. Then, Anais, David is concerned about you too. He told your parents you'd been exhibiting signs of mania. Grandiose thinking, decreased need for sleep, risky financial behaviors. Risky financial... Charlotte, I run a company. Of course, I don't sleep much, and there's nothing risky about building something 300,000 people use daily. That's actually why I'm calling. Her tone shifted, becoming more professional. We're having a family dinner tomorrow night. Just close family people who love you. We want to discuss how best to support you through this transition. Every instinct screamed danger. This isn't an intervention, is it? It's a conversation. Your cousins Emma and James will be there. They're worried too, especially after what they've heard. What they've heard from my parents, you mean? The same parents who tried to trick me into signing commitment papers. Anais, that's exactly the kind of paranoid thinking that concerns us. Your parents would never... I have the papers, Charlotte. Patricia filled them out herself. Voluntary psychiatric hold for delusional thinking and grandiose beliefs. Another pause. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. Why don't you come to dinner and we can clear everything up? 7 o'clock at my house. Neutral ground. Neutral ground, as if this were a war requiring peace negotiations, though wasn't it exactly that, a battle for my autonomy, my truth, my right to exist outside their prescribed boundaries? I'll think about it, I lied. Please do. We love you, Anais. We just want what's best. After she hung up, I stood in my kitchen, watching dolphins play in the distance. They wanted what was best, but only if it aligned with their definition. Only if it fit the Harrison family mold. My laptop chimed with an email from Katherine Anderson. The subject line made me forget all about family interventions. Healthcare partnership confirmed. Celebration required. I video called her immediately. She appeared on screen from her Palo Alto office, grinning wider than I'd ever seen. "We did it," she said without preamble. "Meridian Health Systems wants to integrate sleep sound into their patient care platform. $20 million contract over 3 years." The number hit me physically. I sank onto a kitchen stool. $20 million with potential for expansion. They want exclusive healthcare provider rights. I've scheduled the signing for Monday after our board meeting. She leaned forward. "Anais, do you understand what this means? We're not just a meditation app anymore. We're a medical intervention tool. Insurance companies will cover subscriptions. Doctors will prescribe us." The validation studies worked beyond expectations. 82% improvement in sleep quality, 73% reduction in anxiety markers. The FDA is interested in fast-tracking us as a digital therapeutic. I stared at the ocean, trying to process this leap from startup to medical device company. We'll need to hire compliance officers, medical advisors, expanded development team. Already drafting job postings, but Anais, there's more. Meridian CEO wants to meet you personally. Lawrence Sterling doesn't usually involve himself in partnerships this size, but he's fascinated by your story. Stanford Law to tech founder to medical innovator. When he'll be at Monday's signing, which means, she paused significantly, you need to be at your best. No family drama, no distractions. Can you handle that? I thought about Charlotte's dinner invitation, the family gathering designed to save me from my success. I can handle it. Good, because after this announcement, your valuation won't be $15 million. Conservative estimates put us at 40 to 50 million post-partnership. The call ended, leaving me alone with numbers that would have seemed impossible just days ago. My phone buzzed with texts from the team celebrating the news. Rachel was already coordinating press releases. The Chronicle interview would be old news by Monday. But my joy dimmed as I noticed the silver Audi passing my gate again. Security had sent an alert with a photo this time. David hunched over his steering wheel, taking pictures of my house. I called the security company directly. "I need to upgrade my package. Cameras, motion sensors, whatever you recommend. Someone is surveilling my property." The representative took my concern seriously, scheduling installation for that afternoon. As I hung up, my phone rang again. "Marcus." I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Or Anais." His voice sounded young, scared. "Are you really worth $15 million? Hello to you too, Marcus." "I'm serious. Mom and Dad are going crazy. They hired someone to verify the Chronicle article. When it came back true, Dad threw his laptop across the room." "Sounds like Richard. How did you hide this? How did you build all this without anyone knowing?" I heard genuine confusion in his voice, maybe even hurt. We'd been close once before law school consumed my life, before I had to hide everything. "I didn't want to hide it," I said softly, "but you know how they are. Any deviation from the plan is betrayal. They're saying you're sick, that this is all some manic delusion. They've got Dr. Harrison on speed dial and some lawyer named Whitman who specializes in conservatorships. They were escalating. Marcus, I need you to listen very carefully. I'm not sick. I'm not delusional. I built something real, something that helps people. The only thing wrong with me is that I didn't want to be a lawyer." "But why didn't you tell me I could have helped, could have covered for you better?" "Could you really? When have you ever stood up to them?" Silence stretched between us. We both knew the answer. Marcus had learned early to bend to appease, to follow the path of least resistance. Art school dreams buried under pre-law textbooks. "They're planning something," he finally said, "at Charlotte's dinner. It's not just family. They've invited people, professional people. Who? I don't know exactly. I heard Mom on the phone with someone about intervention protocols and emergency procedures. Anais, I think you should stay away. The security system beeped, showing another car approaching, this time a black town car. As I watched it stopped at my gate and a man in a suit emerged pressing the call button. I have to go, I told Marcus. Someone's here. Be careful, he said. They're not going to stop. Dad keeps saying you're embarrassing the family, that they need to contain the situation before it gets worse. I ended the call and checked the security monitor. The man held documents and a briefcase. Process server, maybe, but he seemed too calm, too patient. Ms. Harrison? His voice came through the intercom. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Harrison. No relation, despite the name. Your parents asked me to check on you. The psychiatrist. They'd sent him to my home, violated this sanctuary I'd built. Anger flared hot and bright. You're trespassing, I said through the intercom. Leave immediately or I'll call the police. I'm just here to talk. Your family is worried. If we could just have a conversation, I could reassure them. I said leave, now. He held up a document. I have a court order for psychiatric evaluation. If you refuse to speak with me voluntarily, I'm authorized to request police assistance. My blood turned to ice. A court order. How is that possible? You're lying. No judge would sign that without cause. Your father is quite persuasive, and your recent behaviors, dropping out large financial claims, paranoid ideation about being followed, it paints a concerning picture. I grabbed my phone, calling the lawyer Rachel had retained. As it rang, I watched Dr. Harrison pace by the gate, occasionally glancing at his watch. Steinberg. There's a psychiatrist at my gate claiming he has a court order for evaluation. Don't let him in. Don't speak to him. I'm on my way. The lawyer's voice was crisp, professional. Is the order from San Francisco County? I can't tell from here. Doesn't matter. Stay inside. Don't answer the door if he somehow gets past the gate. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I hung up and activated the full security lockdown Rachel had insisted on installing. Gates locked, cameras recording, silent alarm connected to local police. Dr. Harrison continued his patient vigil, occasionally speaking into his phone. Through the high-definition cameras, I could see his expression kind, concerned, professionally sympathetic, the perfect mask for someone about to destroy a life. My phone exploded with texts. Emma, my cousin, just heard about dinner. Please come, we can work this out. James, her brother, your mom showed us some concerning stuff. Maybe talking to someone would help. Even family friends were messaging people who'd known me since childhood, all suddenly concerned about my mental health, all parroting the same language about getting help, taking a break, coming home. They'd mobilized everyone, created a narrative where I was sick and they were saviors, where my success was symptoms and their control was cure. I pulled out my laptop and started documenting everything. The gate videos, the text messages, the timeline of harassment. If they wanted to play legal games, I'd give my lawyer ammunition. 25 minutes later, a Bentley pulled up beside Dr. Harrison's town car. Sandra Steinberg emerged, all 5 feet of her radiating authority despite her diminutive stature. She marched directly to the psychiatrist who showed her his papers. I watched them argue through the cameras, Sandra's gestures becoming increasingly animated. Finally, she pulled out her phone, made a call, and handed it to Dr. Harrison. His face changed as he listened. When he handed it back, he retreated to his car and drove away. The gate opened for Sandra's car. I met her at the door, relief making my knees weak. The order was fraudulent, she said without preamble, handing me a coffee she'd somehow procured during the drive. Well, not fraudulent exactly. Your father got an emergency order from a judge friend, but it's only valid in San Francisco County. He has no jurisdiction here. They forged a court order. Stretch the truth about jurisdiction. The psychiatrist probably didn't know. Your father counted on you being too frightened to verify. She pulled out a tablet. I've already filed a restraining order against harassment. It'll be heard Monday morning. The same day as my board meeting. Then we'll handle it early. Judge Martinez owes me a favor. We'll get it heard at 7 a.m. She looked around my home, taking in the obvious wealth. This changes things. When someone has no assets, families can sometimes steamroll them into conservatorships, but you have resources to fight back. What's their endgame? They can't actually think I'm delusional when Forbes is verifying my net worth. Sandra's expression darkened. I pulled some records. Your father has significant debts, gambling mostly, private poker games with stakes he couldn't afford. Your mother's been covering them, but they're hemorrhaging money, maintaining their lifestyle. The pieces clicked. They need my money. If they can establish conservatorship, they control your assets, sell your company for quick cash, liquidate everything to cover their debts, and maintain appearances. But I'm an adult. I'm clearly competent. Conservatorships can happen to anyone with enough legal pressure and friendly judges. Look at celebrity cases. All they need is doubt about your mental state. She gestured at my laptop. Keep documenting everything. Every contact, every threat, every lie they spread. We're building a case for harassment and attempted financial abuse. After she left, I sat in my office staring at the ocean as the sun began its afternoon descent. My family wasn't trying to save me. They were trying to rob me, using love as a weapon and concern as camouflage. The healthcare partnership would be announced Monday. My valuation would triple. And somewhere in San Francisco, my parents were planning their next attack, convinced their daughter's success was a symptom to be cured, rather than an achievement to be celebrated. I opened Sleep Sound and selected a meditation I'd recorded about letting go of toxic relationships. As my own voice guided me through releasing what no longer served me, I made a decision. Charlotte's family dinner was definitely a trap, but sometimes the best way to defeat a trap is to spring it yourself. I picked up my phone and texted my aunt, "I'll be there, 7 o'clock, can't wait to see everyone." Then I called Sandra back. "How fast can you get security for a family dinner? The kind that looks like guests, but knows how to handle situations." "You're going," she sounded surprised. "With backup. If they want to stage an intervention, let's see how they handle one with witnesses who aren't on their payroll." "I like how you think. Give me 2 hours." As I ended the call, I noticed the silver Audi making another pass. David still circling like a vulture, hoping to report something useful to my parents. Let him watch. Let them all watch. By Monday, the whole world would know exactly who Anais Mitchell really was, and no amount of family interventions, fraudulent court orders, or psychiatric evaluations would change that truth. The ocean waves crashed against the cliffs below, eternal and unstoppable. Just like me. Saturday morning arrived with fog rolling off the Pacific, shrouding my Malibu sanctuary in gray mist. I'd barely slept running scenarios for tonight's family ambush, but the universe had other plans for my anxiety. At 6 a.m., my phone erupted with notifications. Not the gentle chimes of normal messages, but the aggressive buzzing that meant crisis. Rachel's name flashed first. "Check TechCrunch, now." My stomach dropped as I pulled up the site. The headline made my coffee mug slip from my hand, shattering on the Italian marble floor. Sleep Sound CEO's mental health crisis is the meditation app empire built on delusion. The article was brutal. Anonymous sources claiming I'd been hospitalized for psychiatric issues, former classmates describing erratic behavior and manic episodes, photos from my law school days manipulated to show exhaustion as instability. And at the center of it all, quotes from family members close to the situation expressing deep concern for my well-being. My laptop showed the damage in real time, our stock price dropping. Investors flooding Rachel's inbox with worried queries. The Meridian Health Systems deal suddenly in question just 2 days before signing. I called Catherine Anderson, my lead board member, before the coffee finished dripping through my fingers. "I'm already on it," she answered without preamble. 3 other board members have gotten calls from reporters. Someone's orchestrating this perfectly. My parents. Obviously, but they have help. This is professional character assassination. The timing, the sources, the coordinated release across multiple platforms. She paused. Anais, they've hired Preston Communications. I sank into my office chair. Preston Communications handled crisis management for politicians and corporations. Their specialty, destroying reputations so thoroughly that truth became irrelevant. My parents hadn't just escalated, they declared war. What's our response? But first, we document everything. I've got our lawyers issuing cease and desist letters to every publication running the story. Second, you need to address this publicly. Video statement, full transparency. Show them the real you, not this fabrication. The Chronicle interview should have done that. That was before they poisoned the well. Now we need stronger medicine. Her voice softened. How are you holding up? I looked at my shattered mug coffee spreading across white marble like blood. I've been better. The Meridian deal? Well, Lawrence Sterling's office called 10 minutes ago. They're reassessing their position. The words tasted bitter. $20 million hanging in the balance because my parents can't accept I'm not a lawyer. We'll fix this. Emergency board meeting in 2 hours. Virtual given the circumstances. Can you present your Q3 numbers? Remind everyone why they invested. Of course. After she hung up, I spent 20 minutes cleaning coffee and ceramic shards, a mundane task grounding me. Then I showered, chose my most professional outfit, and set up my home studio for battle. Rachel arrived as I finished my makeup, her usual efficiency cranked to overdrive. I've got 17 interview requests, 12 investor queries, and 1 very interesting email. She handed me her tablet. David Martinez wants to meet. Says he has information about your parents' plans. Absolutely not. Hear me out. He's been feeding them information, right? What if we could flip him? Rachel, he's been stalking me. His car has passed my house 15 times in 2 days. 16, actually. Security sent updated logs. She pulled up another screen. But look at this. He was terminated from your father's firm yesterday. Official reason, inappropriate use of company resources. That stopped me. Richard fired David. Apparently, your ex was getting too aggressive with his surveillance. Even your father has limits. David's email suggests he's angry enough to talk. I weighed the risks. David was untrustworthy, possibly unstable, but he'd been inside my parents' planning sessions, knew their strategies. In war, enemy intelligence could turn tides. Set up a meeting, public place security present, after the board meeting. Rachel nodded, already typing. Speaking of security, your detail for tonight's dinner is confirmed. 2 operators, former FBI. They'll pose as business associates interested in Sleep Sound. Good. Now let's deal with this media nightmare. We spent the next hour crafting responses. For every lie, we prepared truth. For every anonymous source, we lined up named supporters, users who'd found peace through our app, employees who'd watched me build the company from nothing, board members ready to stake their reputations on my stability. The virtual board meeting assembled on my large monitor. 7 faces in boxes, each representing millions in investment and decades of business experience. Catherine led the meeting with surgical precision. We've all seen the articles, she began. Let's address the elephant directly. Anais, the floor is yours. I shared my screen showing real-time user data. While anonymous sources question my mental health, 300,000 people used Sleep Sound to find peace last night. Our premium subscriptions are up 12% this week. Customer satisfaction holds steady at 94%. But the Meridian deal, Thomas Brennan, our most conservative board member, looked concerned. Is still viable. I spoke with their head of digital health an hour ago. They want reassurances, not cancellation. If we handle this correctly, we emerge stronger. And the family situation. This from Maria Santos, who'd built 3 companies despite her own family's doubts. My parents disapprove of my career choices. Rather than accept my success, they've chosen to weaponize mental health stigma. It's despicable, but not uncommon. How many founders have faced similar attacks? Heads nodded across the screen. Everyone had stories of doubt, dismissal attempts to undermine their achievements. "What's your strategy?" asked James Okoye, our technical advisor. "False. Full transparency. I'll release a video statement addressing the allegations. Then, we counterstrike with our announcement about Meridian. Let the market decide who's delusional, the woman running a $50 million company or the gambling judge trying to steal his daughter's assets." Gambling. Thomas leaned forward. Catherine took over. "Our investigation revealed significant debts. Judge Harrison owes approximately $2 million to private creditors. His attacks on Anais correlate directly with his financial desperation." "Christ," someone muttered. "Your own father." "Family," I said simply. "It's complicated." The vote was unanimous, full support, aggressive response, and acceleration of the Meridian announcement. As the meeting ended, Maria lingered on screen. "I went through something similar," she said quietly. "My family tried to have me declared incompetent when I wouldn't marry the man they chose. Stay strong. Success is the best revenge." After she disconnected, I sat in the silence of my office, drawing strength from her words. Then I positioned myself before the camera, adjusted the lighting, and began recording my response to the world. "My name is Anais Mitchell. I'm the founder and CEO of Sleep Sound. This morning, you may have read articles questioning my mental health, my competence, and my company's legitimacy. I'm here to address these allegations directly." I spoke for 12 minutes about leaving law school to follow my passion, about building a company while hiding from family expectations, about parents who saw success as sickness because it didn't match their plans. I showed incorporation documents, user testimonials, investor agreements, pure facts against poisonous fiction. Mental health is serious, I concluded. Using it as a weapon to silence and control is abhorrent. I built Sleep Sound because I believe in healing and peace, in the power of rest to transform lives. No amount of family dysfunction will stop that mission. Rachel uploaded the video across all platforms while I changed for my meeting with David. The restaurant she'd chosen was public but discreet, with sightlines our security approved. I arrived to find him already waiting, looking smaller than I remembered. The golden boy who charmed my parents had dissolved into someone desperate and disheveled. His silver Audi, I noticed, had a parking ticket under the wiper. Even his stocking was falling apart. "Thanks for coming," he started. "You have 5 minutes. Talk." He pulled out his phone, showing screenshots of text messages. "Your parents hired me to document your instability, promised me a promotion if I could provide evidence for conservatorship proceedings. I figured that out myself." "But did you know about the doctor?" "Not the psychiatrist, the other one, Dr. Sarah Whitfield. She specializes in deprogramming people from what she calls success delusions." Ice formed in my veins. Deprogramming. "She runs a facility in Marin, very exclusive, very private. Your parents put down a deposit for a 6-month stay. They plan to have you committed tomorrow night after the family dinner. Charlotte's house has a back entrance where an ambulance can park unseen." I stared at him, processing this escalation. Not just an intervention, but an abduction. Not just conservatorship, but imprisonment. "Why tell me this?" His laugh was bitter. "Because they used me and threw me away. Just like they're trying to do to you. Your father cost me my career because I got too enthusiastic in helping him. Turns out stalking the judge's daughter is fine until other judges notice. You want money? I want them to pay. And maybe," he looked away, "maybe I want to apologize. You were building something amazing while I was sneaking around playing spy. I chose wrong." I studied him, this broken man who'd betrayed me for promises of power. Part of me wanted to walk away, leave him to his consequences, but information was currency, and he was offering valuable intel. The facility in Marin, do you have details? He slid a folder across the table. Brochures for Renewal Wellness Center, specializing in reality reorientation therapy. Photos showed peaceful grounds hiding what looked like a minimum security prison. Price lists that would drain a fortune while curing success. Your parents told Dr. Whitfield you'd inherited your grandmother's mental instability along with her entrepreneurial delusions. They've constructed an entire false medical history. My grandmother, the only one who'd supported my dreams, who'd whispered, "Build something beautiful," before she died. They were using her memory against me. Is there more? Your brother Marcus, he's not part of this. I heard him arguing with your parents, saying it was wrong. They threatened his tuition, said they'd cut him off completely if he warned you. So Marcus had tried to protect me in his limited way. The warning about Charlotte's dinner was all he could manage without losing everything. Thank you, I said, meaning it. This helps. Will you destroy them? His eyes held desperate hope. Will you make them pay for what they're doing? I'm going to do something better. I stood, leaving money for his coffee. I'm going to succeed so brilliantly that their lies become obvious. And David get help. Real help, not the kind my parents are peddling. I left him there clutching his folder of evidence and returned to my car where security waited. The sun was setting, painting the ocean in shades of warning. Charlotte's dinner was 3 hours away. Back home, I called Sandra Steinberg and shared David's intelligence. Her curses were creative and multilingual. Kidnapping, she finally said. That's what they're planning. Kidnapping and false imprisonment. With this evidence, we can have them arrested. After they try it, I corrected, I want them to show their hand. I want witnesses. Anais, this is dangerous. These facilities are legal gray areas. Once you're inside, getting out becomes complicated. They won't get that far. We have security, we have evidence, and now we have their playbook. I stared at the ocean, drawing strength from its persistence. They want to cure me of success. Let them try. You're playing with fire. No, I said, thinking of the 300,000 people who'd sleep better tonight because of what I built. I'm playing with truth, and truth eventually burns through every lie. The fog had cleared, revealing a spectacular sunset. In 2 hours, I'd walk into my family's trap armed with knowledge they didn't know I possessed. The business crisis they'd manufactured would be my catalyst for revelation. I opened my laptop and began preparing for Monday's signing ceremony. Meridian Health Systems would either stand by their partnership or reveal themselves as fair-weather allies. Either way, I'd know where I stood. But first, I had a family dinner to attend and a kidnapping to prevent. The ocean roared its approval as I prepared for war. Charlotte's house, perched in the Berkeley Hills like a therapeutic retreat, all warm wood and therapeutic colors. I arrived precisely at 7, my security detail already inside, posing as potential investors named Jennifer Walsh and Robert Chen. The other cars in the driveway told a story: my parents, Mercedes, Emma's Tesla, James's BMW, and surprisingly, Marcus's beat-up Honda. Charlotte greeted me at the door with a hug that lasted too long, as if she could diagnose my mental state through physical contact. Anais, darling, you look wonderful, rested. Amazing what sleeping in your own bed will do, I replied, noting how her eyes flickered at the mention of my home. The living room was staged like an intervention from a textbook. Chairs arranged in a circle, tissues strategically placed, soft lighting that probably cost extra on her therapy office designer's bill. My family sat in practiced positions, faces wearing matching expressions of concern. Anais. Emma rose, her pregnancy showing under a flowing dress. We've been so worried. James stood beside her, protective hand on her shoulder. Good to see you, cuz. It's been too long. My parents occupied the power positions directly across from an empty chair clearly meant for me. Patricia wore her court suit, every inch the corporate lawyer ready for battle. Richard had chosen casual clothes, probably Charlotte's suggestion to seem less threatening. It didn't work. A predator in khakis was still a predator. But it was Marcus who drew my attention. My baby brother sat apart from the others, shoulders hunched, avoiding eye contact. He'd lost weight, dark circles under his eyes, suggesting sleepless nights. When he finally looked up, I saw something unexpected defiance mixed with fear. "Oh, sit, please," Charlotte gestured to the designated chair. "Would you like some tea? I have that chamomile blend you used to love." "I'm fine." I chose a different seat, one that kept my back to a wall and gave me clear sight lines to both exits. Jennifer Walsh shifted subtly, maintaining her protective positioning. "Oh, well," Patricia's voice cut through the pleasantries. "I suppose we should address why we're here." "Yes," I agreed. "Let's discuss why you've been spreading lies to tech journalists and hiring firms to destroy my reputation." Charlotte's therapeutic mask slipped. "Anais, that's exactly the kind of paranoid thinking we're concerned about." "Paranoid?" I pulled out my phone showing screenshots of the TechCrunch article. "Anonymous family sources. That's you, Patricia. The writing style matches your legal briefs." "You're analyzing writing styles now," Richard leaned forward. "Darling, do you hear yourself?" "I hear someone defending themselves against orchestrated character assassination, which, by the way, is illegal. My lawyers are preparing defamation suits." "Your lawyers?" Patricia's laugh was sharp. "Hired with what money? This fantasy fortune you've invented?" Jennifer Walsh smoothly interjected. "Ms. Mitchell's company valuation is public record. I'm here specifically because my firm is interested in Series C investment." The family exchanged glances. They hadn't expected resistance to their narrative. "You're not an investor," James said slowly. "You're a bodyguard." "I'm both, actually. 20 years in venture capital, 15 in personal security. Successful founders often need both skill sets." Jennifer's smile was pleasant and terrifying. "This is ridiculous," Richard stood. "Anais, you've hired actors to support your delusions. This is exactly what Dr. Harrison warned us about." "Speaking of Dr. Harrison," I said, "how much did you pay him to forge that psychiatric evaluation order?" Silence. Charlotte's face went pale. "What order?" "The one he showed up at my house with yesterday, claiming jurisdiction he didn't have. My lawyer has filed charges." "We didn't—" Patricia started, then stopped. "We were trying to help." "By sending a stranger to my home with false documents?" Marcus suddenly stood. "Tell her the truth." Everyone turned to stare at him. My quiet brother, who'd never challenged authority in his life, was shaking but standing. "Marcus," Richard's voice carried warning. "Sit down." "No." The word cracked but held. "Tell her about Dr. Whitfield, about the facility, about tomorrow night." "You little—" Patricia caught herself. "You're confused, darling. Sit down and let the adults handle this." "I'm 20 years old," Marcus's voice rose, "and I'm tired of watching you destroy Anais because she wouldn't be your puppet." "Marcus," I said softly, "it's okay. I already know about Renewal Wellness Center." The room erupted, Charlotte demanding to know what facility, Emma and James looking genuinely confused, Patricia threatening Marcus with complete disinheritance, Richard trying to restore order with his judge voice. But Marcus wasn't done. "They've been planning this for months, ever since Anais started missing family dinners for study groups. They hired someone to follow her. They consulted doctors without her knowledge. They've been building a case that she's mentally incompetent." "Because she is!" Richard roared. "No one builds a multi-million-dollar company while in law school. It's impossible." "Improbable," I corrected. "Not impossible. Just because you lack imagination doesn't make my reality a delusion." "Your reality." Patricia pulled out a folder. "Let's discuss reality. You've been lying for 2 years. Secret phones, hidden offices, fake study groups. That's not the behavior of a stable person. No, it's the behavior of someone with controlling parents who would sabotage any dream that didn't match theirs. Emma finally spoke. Anais, we just want to understand. This company? These millions? It seems so sudden. Because they hid it from you. I looked at each family member, asked them why they didn't mention the Chronicle interview until after they'd hired a PR firm to discredit it. Ask why they consulted psychiatrists before even talking to me. Ask why there's an ambulance scheduled to arrive here at 9 p.m. Charlotte's gasp was genuine. Patricia, you didn't. It's for her own good. My mother's composure finally cracked. She's throwing away everything. The Harrison legacy, the firm's reputation, everything we built. Everything you built on gambling debts and lies, I shot back. The room froze. Richard's face went from red to white in seconds. What did you say? $2 million in private poker games, Dad. Borrowing from mother's clients to cover losses. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think my lawyers wouldn't investigate why you're so desperate to control my assets? How dare you? How dare I? You tried to have me committed to steal my money. You hired my ex-boyfriend to stalk me. You've turned our entire family against me because I chose technology over law. Marcus pulled something from his pocket. A small digital recorder. I've been recording their conversations for weeks. Everything's here. The planning, the lies, the facility booking, all of it. He held it out to me, but Patricia moved faster, lunging for the device. Robert Chen intercepted her smoothly, his investor facade dropping to reveal professional training. Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to step back. This is a private family matter. Not when it involves conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Jennifer Walsh added her phone already out. I've just sent the audio files to Ms. Mitchell's legal team. The files Marcus had been recording uploaded to the cloud. 2 months of evidence digitally preserved beyond my parents' reach. You betrayed us, Richard told Marcus, voice deadly quiet. Your own family. No, Marcus replied steadier now. I chose my sister over your lies. I chose right over wrong, something you taught me before you forgot what it meant. Emma was crying. James held her looking between me and my parents like he was seeing strangers. Charlotte had retreated to her therapist pose, processing the collapse of her intervention. There's something else, Marcus said, pulling out an envelope. Grandmother's real will, the one you hid Dad. My heart stopped. What? She left you everything, Anais, not just the small trust you got. Everything, the properties, the investments, all of it. But it was contingent on you following your own path, not theirs. Dad hid it because he'd already borrowed against those assets. I took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside my grandmother's handwriting, legal documents, proof of another betrayal. She'd tried to protect me from beyond the grave, and they'd stolen that too. This is worth, I calculated quickly, $8 million. Which we invested in your future, Patricia snapped. Your education, your opportunities. My prison, I corrected. You spent my inheritance to keep me under control. We're your parents. We know what's best. No, you know what's best for you. My success threatens your worldview, so you'd rather destroy me than adapt. I stood tucking the will away. But here's the thing about truth. It always surfaces. The doorbell rang. Charlotte answered it, returning with 2 uniformed EMTs. We're here for the wellness transport. Send them away, I said calmly, or I call the real police and have everyone arrested for attempted kidnapping. Richard stepped forward. You wouldn't dare. The scandal would destroy the Harrison name. The Harrison name is already destroyed. You did that yourself with your gambling and grift. I'm building something new. The Mitchell name after grandmother. The EMTs looked confused. So, no transport. No transport, Charlotte confirmed, finally choosing a side. This was a mistake. Please leave. As they departed, I gathered my things. Monday morning, the world will know exactly who I am, and what I've built. Your lies will be buried under an avalanche of truth. And Marcus? I looked at my brother. You're coming with me. Pack your things. You can't take him. Patricia moved to block us. Watch me. He's an adult who's chosen to leave an abusive situation. Stand aside or I'll add unlawful imprisonment to the charges. Marcus didn't hesitate. He'd already packed, I realized. This had been planned. My little brother had finally found his courage. We left together, Jennifer and Robert flanking us protectively. Behind us, the family imploded. Charlotte demanding answers. Emma sobbing about deception. James trying to mediate. And my parents standing in the wreckage of their schemes, finally understanding that control was an illusion. In the car, Marcus broke down. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I was scared. You spoke up when it mattered, I said, holding him as he cried. That's everything. What happens now? They'll cut me off. No tuition, no housing, nothing. You'll stay with me. And Monday, after the Meridian announcement, I'm establishing a foundation for students whose families don't support their dreams. Full ride to art school if that's still what you want. Art school. Hope bloomed in his eyes. Really, grandmother would have wanted it. As we drove toward Malibu, I thought about betrayal and loyalty, family and truth. Marcus had risked everything to warn me. The recording device in his pocket had captured weeks of evidence protection he'd arranged while pretending compliance. My baby brother, the quiet one, the compliant one, had played the longest game of all. Why, I asked as the city lights faded behind us, why risk it all for me? He was quiet for a long moment. Remember when I was 10 and wanted to paint, you bought me supplies with your babysitting money. Mom threw them out, but you kept buying more, hiding them in your room. You protected my dreams when I was too small to protect them myself. You remember that? I remember everything. Every time you stood between me and their expectations. Every art class you secretly paid for. Every lie you told to give me space to breathe. He looked out at the ocean appearing in the distance. I owed you an intervention of my own. We drove the rest of the way in companionable silence, two siblings who'd chosen each other over the family myth. Behind us, the Harrison dynasty crumbled. Ahead, the Mitchell future beckoned, built on truth instead of tales. At my gate, Marcus gasped at the house beyond. You really did it. You really built everything you dreamed. We built it, I corrected. Every rebellion starts somewhere. Ours started with hidden art supplies and secret dreams. As we entered my sanctuary, I felt the shift. No longer was I alone in my success. Marcus had chosen me, chosen us, chosen the possibility of becoming who we truly were. The ocean welcomed us, both home waves whispering promises of freedom that no family dinner could destroy. Monday arrived with digital warfare. I woke to Rachel's emergency call at 5 a.m., her voice tight with controlled panic. They're escalating. Check your email, now. My inbox was a cesspool of legal threats, cease and desist letters from Patricia's firm claiming I'd stolen proprietary family information, notices from Richard's connections alleging fraud in my company's formation. But the worst came from a name I didn't recognize: Whitman and Associates, specialists in corporate takeover litigation. They're claiming Sleep Sound was built using Harrison family resources, Rachel explained, that your law school tuition was actually investment capital, making them majority stakeholders. I laughed, but it was bitter. They're seriously arguing that paying for education I didn't want gives them ownership of what I built instead. It gets worse. They filed an emergency injunction to freeze the Meridian deal. The hearing is this afternoon, same judge who's Richard's poker buddy. From the guest room, I heard Marcus stirring. My brother had spent the weekend in shock, alternating between relief at escaping and terror about the future. Now our parents were demonstrating exactly why that terror was justified. Conference call in 20, I told Rachel. Full legal team, and get Catherine on the line. I made coffee while scanning the documents. Whitman and Associates had crafted a masterpiece of legal fiction. According to their filing, I'd embezzled family funds to start Sleep Sound. They twisted every tuition payment, every birthday gift, every dinner they'd bought into evidence of investment. The creativity was almost admirable. Marcus appeared in the doorway, hair disheveled, clutching his phone. They're calling me, non-stop. Mom says if I come back now, all is forgiven. Dad's threatening to report the car as stolen. What car? The Honda. It's in his name. He looked young, scared. Anais, what if they're right? What if I made a mistake? I set down my coffee and gripped his shoulders. Look at me. They're showing you who they really are. Not parents concerned about their children, but controllers losing their grip. This isn't love. It's manipulation. But college will be handled. Today, we sign a $50 million deal. You think I can't afford your tuition? The conference call assembled on my laptop. Sandra Steinberg led the charge, her voice cutting through the legal chaos like a blade. Okay, their claims are ludicrous, but dangerous, she began. Judge Kellerman has already agreed to hear the emergency motion. We have 4 hours to prepare. Can we get a different judge? Catherine asked. Not in time, but I've filed complaints with the Judicial Ethics Board about his financial relationships with Richard Harrison. Win or lose today, Kellerman's career is over. What's our strategy? I asked. Documentation. We prove every penny of Sleep Sound came from legitimate sources. Your coded commit history bank records investor agreements. We bury them in evidence. And if Kellerman rules against us anyway, then we appeal immediately and go public. Very public. A judge with gambling debts colluding with a gambling attorney to steal his daughter's company. The media will feast. As the call progressed, I noticed Marcus taking notes. Not about his own situation, but about the legal strategies, the corporate maneuvering. The business major our parents forced on him suddenly serving a different purpose. There's something else, Jennifer Walsh interjected. She'd maintained security all weekend, earning every penny of her fee. David Martinez reached out again. He has recordings of your parents discussing the plan with Whitman. Actual conspiracy evidence. Why would he help? Sandra sounded suspicious. Because they're destroying him too, I said. Richard got him fired, blacklisted from every firm in the city. David has nothing left to lose. It's a risk. He could be playing both sides. I thought about David in that restaurant, broken and desperate. Set up a meeting, controlled circumstances. If he has what he claims, we need it. The call ended with battle plans established. While Sandra's team prepared legal briefs, I had a company to run and a deal to save. Lawrence Sterling from Meridian had requested a video call and postponing with signal weakness. I dressed carefully, not the law student pretending to be CEO, but the woman who'd built something 300,000 people depended on. Marcus watched from the doorway as I prepared. You look like her, he said quietly. Grandmother, that same dare to stop me energy. She had to fight too, didn't she, to build her import business when women weren't supposed to run companies? Dad hated it, said she embarrassed grandfather, made him look weak. And now I'm embarrassing him the same way. History really does repeat. The video call with Lawrence Sterling required every ounce of composure I possessed. The 60-year-old healthcare executive studied me through the screen like a specimen under a microscope. Ms. Mitchell, he began without pleasantries. I assume you're aware of this morning's legal filing. Completely aware and prepared to address any concerns. Concerns. His laugh was dry. Your family is claiming our $20 million partnership is built on fraud. The board is, let's say, unsettled. The only fraud is their claim. I built Sleep Sound with my own code, my own funds, my own sleepless nights. Would you like to see the GitHub commits from 2 a.m., the caffeine receipts from all-night coding sessions, the beta user feedback I personally responded to at 4 in the morning? His expression softened slightly. I've built companies too. I know the signs of a real founder versus a pretender, but my board needs more than my instincts. Then let's give them evidence. I shared my screen, pulling up financial records, every dollar tracked, every investor verified, every line of code time-stamped. My parents paid for law school. I paid for everything else with freelance coding jobs they never knew about. And this injunction will be defeated this afternoon. My legal team includes Sandra Steinberg. Perhaps you've heard of her. His eyebrows rose. The prosecutor who took down Theranos U have impressive representation. I have impressive everything, Mr. Sterling, because I built it. Not my family, not their connections, not their money, me. And if your board can't see through such an obvious shakedown, then perhaps Meridian isn't the right partner after all. Silence stretched between us. Then Lawrence Sterling did something unexpected. He smiled. Now that's the founder I wanted to partner with. Not the polished act from our first meeting, but the fighter who built something from nothing. He leaned back. The deal stands pending resolution of today's hearing. Win this, and we sign tomorrow. I'll win. I believe you will. Oh, and Ms. Mitchell, your meditation on imposter syndrome helped me through my divorce last year. My ex-wife thought I was crazy for listening to an app. Now she's a premium subscriber too. After the call, I found Marcus in the kitchen making breakfast. He'd found his footing over the weekend, taking over household tasks, like he'd always lived here. How did it go? We're still in play if we win this afternoon. When we win, he corrected, I've been reading about Steinberg. She doesn't lose. David arrived at noon looking worse than before. Jennifer Walsh had arranged the meeting in a public cafe with sightlines she controlled. He carried a laptop bag like it contained nuclear codes. Before I share anything, he began, I need something in writing, protection. Your parents have made it clear they'll destroy anyone who helps you. Sandra had anticipated this. She slid a document across the table. Whistleblower Protection Agreement. You provide evidence of conspiracy, we ensure you're protected in any resulting litigation, plus a consulting fee for your cooperation. His hands shook as he signed. Then he opened the laptop and changed my world. Recording after recording. My parents with Whitman crafting their fraudulent narrative. Patricia suggesting they backdate documents. Richard proposing to leverage his judicial connections. Whitman himself admitting the scheme was aggressive but not technically illegal if we word it right. But the worst was a conversation from Saturday night after the failed intervention. Patricia's voice cold and clear. If we can't control her medically, we'll destroy her professionally. Either she comes home broken or she loses everything. Richard's response, the Meridian deal is her weakness. Kill that and the company hemorrhages value. Then we buy it for pennies through the Shell Corporation. Shell Corporation. They'd planned not just to steal my company, but to profit from its destruction. There's more, David said. Screenshots of texts, emails, planning the whole thing. Your mother created a fake investment document trail going back 2 years. Your father coordinated with 3 judges to ensure favorable rulings. They've been planning this since you started missing family dinners. Sandra was already on her phone updating our legal team. This changed everything. We had evidence of conspiracy, fraud, judicial corruption. The nuclear option neither side wanted, but my parents had forced. What? I asked David, why help me now? He closed the laptop, looking older than his 28 years. Because I watched you build something beautiful while I was building nothing but schemes. Because your parents used me like tissue paper and threw me away. Because maybe if I help you win, I can look at myself in the mirror again. And if they come after you? Let them. I've already lost everything that mattered. At least this way the loss means something. We left him there staring at his coffee, a broken man trying to find redemption in truth. The evidence he'd provided was uploaded to secure servers backed up in triplicate ready for war. The courthouse loomed ahead, all marble and false promises of justice. Inside, my parents waited with their army of lawyers, confident in their connections and corrupted influence. They had no idea that their former spy had just armed their enemy with everything needed to destroy them. As we climbed the courthouse steps, Marcus squeezed my hand. "Ready? Born ready," I replied, thinking of grandmother and her fighting spirit. "Let's show them what Mitchells are made of." The battle for sleep sound was about to begin, and thanks to David's conscience and recorded confessions, I held weapons my parents never saw coming. Justice might be blind, but today she'd see everything. The courthouse steps swarmed with reporters. Someone had leaked the hearing details, and now every tech journalist in California wanted the story of the Stanford dropout fighting her prominent parents for control of a meditation empire. Cameras flashed as we ascended Sandra Steinberg, moving like a shark through water, clearing our path with sharp words and sharper elbows. "Miss Mitchell, is it true your father tried to have you committed? Anais, are you really worth $50 million? Did you steal family money to fund your startup?" Sandra had coached me walk straight, look confident, say nothing. But as we reached the doors, I turned. Maybe it was grandmother's spirit or Marcus's hand steady in mine, but I faced the mob. "I built Sleep Sound to help people find peace," I said clearly. "It's ironic that my own family would try to destroy that peace with lies. But truth has a way of surfacing. Watch what happens in there." Inside courtroom 7 was standing room only. Tech executives mingled with legal observers. Several Sleep Sound users had somehow gotten seats wearing our branded meditation gear in silent support. And there in the plaintiff's section sat my parents. Patricia had chosen her power suit, the one she wore for her biggest corporate battles. Richard wore his lucky cufflinks, the ones he touched during every ruling. They looked confident, victorious even. They didn't see David Martinez slip in through the back door, didn't notice Catherine Anderson's satisfied smile, didn't realize their carefully crafted attack was about to detonate in their faces. Judge Kellerman entered with the pomp of someone who enjoyed his power too much. Late 60s, silver-haired, he'd been Richard's mentor before becoming his poker buddy. The conflict of interest was so obvious it might as well have been embroidered on his robes. "We're here for Harrison versus Mitchell emergency injunction regarding Sleep Sound Incorporated." He didn't even pretend to be impartial, smiling at my parents. "Mr. Whitman, you may proceed." Whitman stood all theatrical gravitas and practiced outrage. For 40 minutes, he painted a picture of family betrayal that would have moved me if it weren't complete fiction. According to him, I'd systematically drained family resources, used their connections, leveraged their name, all while pretending to attend law school. The Harrison family invested over $300,000 in Anais Harrison's education and support, he thundered. That money was redirected into this company through fraudulent means. They are entitled to controlling interest. He presented exhibits, tuition payments, rent checks, even birthday cards with monetary gifts, each twisted into evidence of investment. The creativity was almost admirable. Judge Kellerman nodded along, occasionally glancing at Richard with what looked like sympathy. "This is deeply concerning. Family trust violated at such a fundamental level." Then it was our turn. Sandra Steinberg rose slowly, letting silence build. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that not only refutes these claims, but exposes a conspiracy to defraud my client through abuse of judicial process." Kellerman's face tightened. "That's a serious accusation, Counselor." "Yes, it is." She activated the courtroom's display system. Exhibit A recorded conversations between plaintiffs and their counsel explicitly planning to fabricate evidence. The first recording played. Patricia's voice filled the courtroom discussing how to backdate documents. Whitman's nervous laughter as he agreed it was aggressive but manageable. The reporters scribbled frantically. "Objection." Whitman leapt up. "These recordings were obtained illegally by your former co-conspirator, David Martinez, who will testify to their authenticity." Sandra smiled as David stood in the gallery. He made these recordings as insurance when he realized the plaintiffs were planning to make him a scapegoat. The second recording was worse. Richard discussing his gambling debts, his need for quick cash, his plan to destroy his daughter's company and buy it through a shell corporation. His voice, usually so commanding, sounded desperate and small through the speakers. "Your Honor," Patricia stood abandoning protocol. "This is a family matter that's been twisted by a disturbed young woman. Our daughter is clearly suffering from delusions." Delusions. Sandra pulled up the next exhibit. Like the delusion that Sleep Sound has 300,000 active users, that Meridian Health Systems is offering a $20 million partnership, that Forbes has verified a $50 million valuation. The screens showed everything: user data contracts, independent audits, the truth in black and white, impossible to deny. But the family money? Kellerman tried grasping for any way to help his friend. "Every dollar is accounted for." Sandra presented bank records. Ms. Mitchell funded her company through freelance coding work, 60-hour weeks on top of law school building websites and apps for clients who've provided affidavits. She lived on ramen and determination while her parents spent their money on country club memberships and private poker games. Speaking of poker games, Sandra's smile turned predatory. "Exhibit K records of private gambling sessions between Your Honor and plaintiff Richard Harrison, including one interesting evening where Mr. Harrison lost $40,000 and paid it off by promising a favorable ruling when needed." The courtroom erupted. Kellerman's face went from red to white. "How dare you? How dare I present evidence of judicial corruption, the same way I dare present evidence of fraud conspiracy and attempted kidnapping?" She turned to the gallery. "Oh yes, let's not forget the plaintiff's attempt to have their daughter involuntarily committed to steal her assets." More recordings. Charlotte's horrified reaction learning about the planned abduction. Marcus's voice shaky but clear, describing months of conspiracy. The EMTs confirming they'd been hired for a wellness transport that was anything but voluntary. My parents sat frozen as their empire of lies collapsed. Patricia's perfect composure cracked, tears smearing her makeup. Richard touched his cufflinks repeatedly, as if they could save him from the truth. "Your Honor," Sandra continued, relentless, "not only should this injunction be denied, but criminal charges should be filed. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted kidnapping, judicial corruption. The list goes on." Kellerman looked sick. This hearing is over," a new voice from the back. Everyone turned to see Judge Patricia Chen, Chief Justice of the District. "Judge Kellerman, you're relieved of duty pending investigation. This hearing will reconvene tomorrow with an impartial judge." As court security moved in, Kellerman fled through his chambers. Richard stood to follow but found his path blocked by federal marshals. "Richard Harrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and judicial bribery." The handcuffs clicked shut on the man who'd controlled courtrooms for 30 years. Patricia reached for him, but was stopped by her own set of marshals. "Patricia Harrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping and fraud." As they were led away, our eyes met. I expected to feel triumph, but found only sadness. They'd chosen this path step by destructive step until it led them here. Marcus broke down beside me. The weight of watching our parents arrested too much to bear. I held him as he sobbed, whispering that it would be okay, even though I wasn't sure it would be. Outside, the media storm reached hurricane levels. The story was irresistible: prominent judge and lawyer couple arrested trying to steal their daughter's tech fortune. Every outlet wanted exclusive access. Every reporter angled for the inside story. Sandra handled them with practiced ease while Jennifer Walsh extracted us through a side exit. In the car, Marcus finally spoke. "They're really going to prison." "Probably. The evidence is overwhelming." "Because of me. Because I recorded them." I gripped his hand. "Because of them." Because they chose greed over their children. You just documented the truth. My phone exploded with messages. The arrest had gone viral. Justice for Anais trending worldwide. Sleep sound download spiking as curious users discovered the app at the center of the scandal. Catherine reported emergency investment offers pouring in, everyone wanting a piece of the company that had survived such an assault. But the most important message came from Lawrence Sterling. Impressive performance. The deal stands. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., let's make history. Back in Malibu, we found Rachel coordinating damage control with superhuman efficiency. Press releases, user communications, investor updates, all flowing seamlessly despite the chaos. The good news, Ansa, she reported, is that downloads are up 400%. The bad news is server load is crushing us. I've authorized emergency scaling. Do it, whatever it costs. I moved to my office, needing to see the numbers myself. And Rachel, start recruiting. We're about to need a much bigger team. She smiled. Already posted positions. The arrest video is better advertising than we could have bought. Everyone wants to work for the company that stood up to corruption. As the sun set over the Pacific, I sat with Marcus on the deck. We'd ordered pizza, too exhausted for anything elaborate. The house felt different now, less sanctuary and more fortress that had weathered its first real siege. What happens now, he asked. Now we build. The Meridian deal closes tomorrow. The foundation launches next month. You start at art school in the fall. I paused, and somewhere in there, we figure out how to be a family. Just us. I don't even know how to do that. Be family without them. Neither do I, but grandmother did it when her family disowned her for starting a business. We've got her blood. We'll figure it out. He pulled out a sketch pad, something he'd hidden in his emergency bag. As the last light faded, he drew two figures standing on a cliff, looking out at endless ocean. Not falling, not flying, just standing, together. For the foundation office, he said, when it's built. It's perfect. My phone buzzed with one last message. David Martinez. Saw the news. Thank you for letting me make it right. Starting therapy tomorrow. Maybe we both got free today. Maybe we had. In exposing their lies, I'd found my truth. In their arrest, a strange liberation. The war was won, but the peace would take time to build. Tomorrow, Meridian would make us official partners in revolutionizing mental health care. 50 million would become 500 million. The girl they tried to commit would help millions find peace. But tonight, I sat with my chosen family of one, watching stars emerge over the water, finally free from the Harrison name and all its heavy history. The storm had passed. Now came the harder work of learning to live in the calm. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that made Los Angeles look like a movie set. I dressed in my best suit, the one Rachel had insisted cost more than my parents used to give me for an entire semester. Marcus adjusted my collar with steady hands, his artist's eye ensuring everything was perfect. "You've got this," he said, though I could see his own nerves. Today wasn't just about signing papers. It was about facing the future our parents had tried to steal. The drive to Meridian Health Systems headquarters took us through the heart of LA's medical district, glass towers full of people dedicated to healing, about to partner with a company born from insomnia and desperation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sandra Steinberg met us in the lobby, her presence commanding despite her petite frame. Judge Chen personally selected Judge Martinez for the reconvened hearing. He's known for being incorruptible. Also, the FBI wants to interview you about your parents' conspiracy. I've scheduled it for this afternoon. And my parents. Bail hearing is tomorrow. The prosecutor is requesting they be held given the kidnapping conspiracy. She paused. There's something else. Your Aunt Charlotte called my office. She wants to testify on your behalf. The elevator ride to the 40th floor gave me time to process. Charlotte, who'd hosted the intervention, wanted to support me. The family was reshaping itself in unexpected ways. Lawrence Sterling waited in the boardroom surrounded by lawyers and executives, but his smile was genuine as we entered. Ms. Mitchell, ready to make history. Always. The signing ceremony was everything my parents would have hated. Cameras documenting a Stanford Law dropout partnering with one of healthcare's biggest names, the $20 million contract that validated everything they'd called delusional. As I signed my name, Anais Mitchell, not Harrison, I felt grandmother's presence like a warm hand on my shoulder. To the future of mental health, Lawrence toasted with champagne, and to founders who refused to be silenced. Catherine Anderson pulled me aside as others celebrated. The media requests are overwhelming. Every major outlet wants an exclusive. 60 Minutes, CNN, the whole circus. Not yet. Let the arrest speak for itself. When I do press, it'll be about Sleep Sound's mission, not family drama. Smart. But Anais, you need to know something. Other prominent families have reached out. Quietly, parents who've been financially abusing their successful children. Your story is giving them courage to fight back. The weight of that settled on me. My battle had become a beacon for others trapped in similar situations. The personal had become universal. We arrived at the courthouse to find it even more packed than yesterday. The arrest of Richard and Patricia Harrison had made national news. Legal observers called it the most dramatic family business dispute in California history. Judge Martinez, a stern woman in her 50s, controlled the courtroom with quiet authority. No poker buddies here, no conflicts of interest, just law. Due to the arrests of the plaintiffs, she began, their counsel has withdrawn. New representation has filed to continue the case, but given the evidence of fraud presented yesterday, I'm inclined to dismiss with prejudice. Your Honor, a new lawyer stood. I'm representing the Harrison Family Trust. While we acknowledge the criminal matters, the civil question of ownership remains. Based on fraudulent claims, Judge Martinez's voice could have frozen fire. I've reviewed the recordings. The plaintiffs explicitly discussed fabricating evidence. This entire suit is built on lies. But the family investment was tuition, gifts, normal parental support that creates no ownership claim. She pulled up documents. I see Ms. Mitchell has countersued for defamation, harassment, and attempted theft of trade secrets. Given the evidence, those claims appear substantial. Sandra rose. Your Honor, my client seeks not just dismissal, but damages. The defendant's actions cost her business, relationships required extensive security, and caused emotional distress. We're asking for $10 million in compensatory damages. Gasps rippled through the gallery. I hadn't known Sandra would go nuclear, but it made sense. Hit them so hard they could never try again. Well, that's outrageous, the Harrison Trust lawyer sputtered. The family estate doesn't have such resources. Then perhaps, Judge Martinez said dryly, they should have considered that before attempting to steal a $50 million company. I'm granting the countersuit. Trial date to be set for damages determination. She banged her gavel with finality. The request for injunction is denied. All claims of Harrison ownership in Sleep Sound are dismissed with prejudice. They may never bring such claims again. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed out to file stories. Sleep Sound employees in the gallery cheered. Marcus hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. But across the aisle, the Harrison family lawyer was already on his phone. Even in defeat, they were planning something. Outside, Charlotte waited by a town car. My aunt looked older, diminished by the weekend's revelations. Anais, may we talk? I glanced at Sandra, who nodded. 5 minutes. We walked to a quiet corner while security kept reporters at bay. Charlotte's therapeutic composure was gone, replaced by genuine anguish. I had no idea about the kidnapping plan, she began. The intervention, yes, I thought we were helping, but when Marcus revealed the rest, she shuddered. Your mother is my sister, but what she tried to do was unconscionable. Why are you here, Charlotte? To apologize. and to offer testimony about their financial situation. I've known about Richard's gambling for years. Patricia confided in me, asked for loans I couldn't afford. They've been desperate for months. And you said nothing? Family loyalty, the same misguided loyalty that made me host that horrible dinner. She pulled out an envelope. These are Patricia's emails to me discussing their debts. Use them if needed. I took the envelope, feeling its weight. More evidence of the life my parents had hidden while demanding perfection from their children. There's one more thing, Charlotte said quietly. Your grandmother left me something for you. She was afraid Richard would destroy it if he found it first. She handed me a small wrapped package. She said to give it to you when you finally broke free. Inside was a silver compass, old and worn. Grandmother's first business purchase, the one she'd used navigating ships in San Francisco Bay while building her import empire. A note was attached in her careful script. My darling Anais, if you're reading this, you've chosen your own direction. This compass guided me through storms your grandfather said would sink me. Let it remind you, true north isn't what others say it should be. It's the direction your heart points. Build something beautiful. Love, grandmother. Tears blurred my vision. Charlotte squeezed my hand and left without another word. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, but at least she'd tried. The FBI interview that afternoon was clinical but thorough. 2 agents documenting every detail of my parents' conspiracy. They already had David's recordings but needed my perspective on the pattern of control and escalation. Financial abuse in wealthy families often goes unreported, Agent Sarah Chen explained. Your case could help us understand and prevent similar situations. Will they go to prison? Given the evidence, almost certainly. Conspiracy, fraud, attempted kidnapping, judicial bribery. Your father alone faces 20 years. 20 years. When I was 43, he'd still be behind bars. The man who'd planned every day of my life had lost decades of his own. That evening, Marcus and I sat in my office as markets closed. Sleep Sound's valuation had jumped to $75 million based on the Meridian partnership and publicity. Investment offers flooded in from firms that had ignored us before. We could cash out, Marcus suggested. Sell everything, disappear. Let someone else run it. Is that what you want? He considered, then shook his head. No, I want to see what you build next, what we build. Then we keep building. The foundation launches next month. You'll help run it while starting art school. We'll fund kids whose parents try to cage their dreams. The Mitchell Foundation. The Eleanor Mitchell Foundation, after grandmother. She'd have loved the irony. My phone buzzed with a notification. The evening news was running our story. The anchor's words felt surreal. In a stunning reversal, tech founder Anais Mitchell has won her legal battle against parents who tried to steal her meditation app empire. But the best message came from a user in Ohio. Your app helped me through cancer treatment. Thank you for fighting to keep it alive. Your strength gives me strength. That's what mattered. Not the valuations or legal victories, but the people finding peace through what we'd built. 300,000 souls choosing rest over racing thoughts, calm over chaos. As night settled over Malibu, I stood on the deck with grandmother's compass. The needle pointed steady north, unchanging despite all the day's storms. Marcus joined me, sketchpad in hand, drawing the moment. What's north for you? He asked. I thought about it. Building something that outlasts the pain it came from. Proving that creation beats destruction every time. Finding out who I am without them defining me. Making art that matters. He paused. Being the brother you deserve. You already are. We stayed there as stars emerged, 2 siblings charting new courses with an old compass and young dreams. Tomorrow would bring more battles. The damages trial, the criminal cases, the endless untangling of our parents' desperate schemes. But tonight we were free. Free to build, to dream, to become whoever we chose to be. The Harrisons had lost more than a legal battle. They'd lost the future they'd tried to steal. and we'd gained everything they never understood was possible. Wednesday morning shattered with revelations. Sandra Steinberg arrived at my house before dawn, her usually composed face tight with concern. Marcus and I were reviewing foundation paperwork when she entered carrying boxes of documents that would rewrite our family history. "I've been investigating your parents' finances for the damages trial," she began without preamble. "What I found goes beyond gambling debts and desperation." She spread papers across my dining table, bank records, property deeds, investment statements, a forensic accounting that painted a picture of systematic fraud spanning decades. "Your father has been embezzling from client trust accounts for 15 years, Sandra said. "Small amounts at first to cover gambling losses, then larger sums. We're talking about $12 million. Marcus dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, brown liquid spreading like the stain of truth across white tile. 12 million? That's just what we can trace. Your mother helped hide it, moving money through shell companies, creating false billing records. They weren't just desperate, they were criminal. Long before they came after Anais." I stared at the evidence, mind reeling. Every lecture about ethics, every judgment about my choices, every claim of moral superiority had been projection. They were thieves wrapped in respectability. "There's more," Sandra continued. "Remember your grandmother's will, the one Marcus found. 8 million in assets they hid from me. Try 20 million. Properties in Hawaii, investments in Singapore, art collections in New York. Your grandmother was far wealthier than anyone knew, and your parents have been liquidating her assets for years." The room spun. I gripped the table, trying to process the scope of betrayal. They stole from their own mother's estate while she was still alive. Power of attorney abuse. She had early-stage dementia the last 2 years, and they took advantage. Sandra pulled out another document. But here's the interesting part. She knew. This letter was in her safety deposit box. I read Grandmother Eleanor's shaky handwriting. "To whom it may concern, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Richard has likely stolen everything. I know what my son has become. The gambling, the lies, the slow drain of my accounts. I could have stopped him but chose not to. Let him take the money. It will be his ruin. My true wealth was never in banks. It's in the strength I passed to my granddaughter, Anais. She has my spirit, my refusal to be caged. Richard thinks he's won by taking my money, but he's lost by becoming someone who would steal from his mother. The material inheritance was a test. He failed. Anais will build her own fortune clean and honest. That's the real Anais Mitchell legacy. Watch over my grandchildren. Marcus has artist hands and a gentle soul. Don't let them crush it out of him. All my love, Eleanor." Tears dropped onto the paper. Even knowing what her son was, she'd chosen love over revenge. But she'd also seen me, believed in me, before I believed in myself. "This changes our legal strategy," Sandra said. "We're not just suing for damages to sleep sound. We're going after the stolen inheritance. 20 million plus interest and penalties." "Can we prove it?" "Your parents were meticulous criminals, but not perfect. The FBI is very interested in expanding their investigation. Apparently, several of your father's clients have complained about missing funds over the years." My phone rang. Catherine Anderson, breathless with her own news. "Anais, you need to see the Wall Street Journal, front page." I pulled up the article, "The House of Harrison, How a Prominent Legal Family Built an Empire on Fraud." The investigation was thorough, devastating. Reporters had connected dots we'd missed. Richard's gambling wasn't recreational. He was laundering money through underground games. Patricia's corporate clients included shell companies, funneling embezzled funds. Their entire professional lives were elaborate criminal enterprises. "This is going to destroy everyone associated with them," Catherine said. "Their law firms, clients, political connections. It's a scandal that will reshape San Francisco's legal community." Marcus had gone pale, still processing. Our whole life was built on stolen money. Yes, I said gently. The house, the cars, the country club, the prestige. All of it was theft dressed up as success. No wonder they were so desperate to control us. We were the only legitimate things in their lives. The doorbell rang. Jennifer Walsh checked security cameras before nodding. Charlotte stood outside looking haggard. I almost didn't let her in, but something in her expression made me relent. I know you have no reason to trust me, she began immediately, but I need to share something before the FBI finds it on their own. We gathered in the living room, Charlotte perching on the edge of a chair like she might need to flee. Patricia came to me 5 years ago. She needed therapy, she said, but really, she needed confession. You were treating your own sister. Unethically, yes, but she was desperate and I was worried. Charlotte pulled out a tablet. I recorded our sessions, legal under California law for my own protection. I never thought I'd use them until now. She played an audio file. Patricia's voice, usually so controlled, cracked with stress. I can't sleep, Charlotte. Every time I close my eyes, I see the clients we've robbed. Mrs. Chen's retirement fund, the Thompson Children's College savings. Richard says it's just numbers, but I know these people. I smile at them in court while knowing we've destroyed their futures. Then stop, Charlotte's recorded voice urged. I can't. You don't understand. Richard owes people who break legs, who hurt families. If we don't pay, they'll come after the children, after Anais and Marcus. Everything we do is to protect them. By stealing, by surviving. You think I wanted this life. But once you start, there's no stopping. The only way out is to have enough money that we can run. Start over somewhere. That's why Anais has to become a lawyer. She'll inherit the firm, legitimize everything. She's our redemption plan. The recording stopped. We sat in stunned silence. I was their money laundering scheme, I whispered. Their plan to go legitimate? Charlotte nodded miserably. They convinced themselves it was for you. That building this empire of lies was somehow protection. The delusion ran so deep they believed their own story. And when I refused to play along, you broke the narrative. Without you as a lawyer, their whole house of cards collapsed. That's why they became so desperate. It wasn't just about your money, it was about their entire fiction falling apart. Sandra was already taking notes. This recording is evidence of consciousness of guilt. It also suggests organized crime connections. The FBI will want this immediately. Take it, Charlotte said. I'm done protecting Patricia. Family loyalty doesn't extend to enabling crime empires. She left quickly, unable to meet our eyes. Marcus and I sat with Sandra, overwhelmed by the scope of deception we lived within. Every family dinner had been criminals, pretending normalcy. Every proud moment had been built on others' misery. I need air, Marcus said suddenly, heading for the deck. I found him there later, sketching furiously. The image forming was our childhood home, but the foundation was made of skulls and bones. Art as therapy, processing trauma through creation. How do we move forward from this, he asked, knowing everything was rotten? We build something clean, the foundation, the company, our lives. We prove that Mitchell DNA can create instead of destroy. But what if we're like them? What if it's genetic? I thought about grandmother Eleanor's letter. She wasn't like them. She built honestly, lived ethically. We have her blood too. We get to choose which legacy we follow. The afternoon brought a parade of federal agents, each investigating different aspects of my parents' crimes. Financial Crimes Unit for the embezzlement. Organized Crime Division for the money laundering. Even the IRS smelling decades of tax evasion. Your cooperation is appreciated, Agent Chen said after 3 hours of questions. With the evidence you've provided, we're looking at RICO charges. This isn't just fraud, it's organized crime. RICO, the law designed for mob bosses now aimed at my parents. The prestigious Harrisons, revealed as common criminals with law degrees. As the agents left, my phone buzzed with messages from sleep-sound employees. They'd seen the news, understood why I'd fought so hard to protect the company. Their support felt like clean water after swimming in sewage. That evening, Lawrence Sterling called personally. "I wanted you to know that Meridian's board is more committed than ever. A founder who can build something pure while surrounded by corruption, that's exactly who we want revolutionizing mental health." Even with all this scandal, because of it, you've shown that integrity isn't inherited, it's chosen. Every one of our patients who struggle with family trauma will benefit from your understanding. After dinner, as Marcus worked on foundation logos, I sat in my meditation room. The space I'd built for creating peace, now my refuge from the storm of revelations. I recorded a new session, words flowing from hard-won wisdom. Sometimes we discover that our foundations were built on lies, that the people who should have shown us truth gave us fiction instead. But here's what I've learned: we are not our origins. We are not the sins of those who came before. We are the choices we make, the futures we build, the love we choose to nurture despite the poison we were fed. Breathe with me, in and out. With each breath, release what was never yours to carry. The crimes, the lies, the desperate grasping of those who lost their way. You are not responsible for their choices. You are only responsible for your own. And you choose light. You choose building over destroying. You choose the hard path of integrity over the easy slide of deception. That choice, made again and again, is what defines you. Not your name, not your blood, but your daily decision to be better than what you came from. Breathe, release, build. You are not your parents' crimes. You are your own creation. I saved the file knowing it would help others struggling with similar discoveries. Tomorrow, I'd face more revelations, more evidence of the rot I'd grown up within. The criminal cases would drag on for years, each trial revealing new depths of deception. But tonight in my house, built on honest success with my brother finding himself through art with my company, helping hundreds of thousands find peace, I knew the truth we had already won. The Harrisons' criminal empire was crumbling. The Mitchell legacy of honest creation was just beginning. And somewhere, grandmother Eleanor was smiling, knowing her real inheritance had always been the strength to build something better. The federal courthouse in downtown Los Angeles looked different when you weren't the one on trial. 2 weeks after my parents' arrest, their bail hearing had become the most anticipated legal drama in California. Media trucks lined the streets. Court TV had cleared their schedule. The nation wanted to see the fall of the Harrison legal dynasty. I sat in the gallery's front row with Marcus and Sandra, surrounded by FBI agents and forensic accountants who'd become oddly familiar faces. Behind us, victims of my parents' embezzlement filled rows, people whose retirements and futures had vanished into Richard's poker games and Patricia's shell companies. They entered in orange jumpsuits, the ultimate humiliation for people who'd worn designer suits like armor. Richard had aged a decade in 2 weeks, his silver hair now gray, his commanding presence reduced to shuffling steps. Patricia followed her perfect posture, broken makeup unable to hide the hollows under her eyes. They didn't look at us. Couldn't, perhaps. Their lawyers had instructed them to appear remorseful, but how do you fake regret for a lifetime of lies? Judge Margaret Foster presided, a federal judge with no connection to San Francisco's legal community. She'd been brought in specifically to avoid any hint of bias. Her reputation was fierce fair but unforgiving of corruption. "We're here for bail determination in United States versus Harrison," she began. "Given the scope of charges including the embezzlement, money laundering conspiracy to commit kidnapping and RICO violations, the government has requested detention." The federal prosecutor, James Wright, stood. "Your Honor, the defendants pose significant flight risk. We've uncovered offshore accounts totaling $30 million hidden assets spanning 3 countries. They've already attempted to kidnap and falsely imprison their own daughter. Release would endanger the community and compromise the integrity of these proceedings. Richard's lawyer, a hired gun from Los Angeles, since no San Francisco firm would touch them, fought back. Your Honor, my clients are pillars of their community. Judge Harrison has served honorably for 30 years. While stealing from client trust accounts, Wright interrupted, we have evidence of embezzlement going back 15 years. 12 million documented, likely more hidden. These are allegations, now with recorded confessions. Wright played a segment of David's recordings. Richard's voice filled the courtroom discussing how to hide stolen funds, how to destroy evidence, how to break his own daughter to access her assets. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Several victims began crying, hearing confirmation of what they'd suspected for years. Patricia's lawyer tried a different approach. Mrs. Harrison is a mother concerned about her daughter's welfare. So concerned she hired a facility to imprison her against her will. Wright showed documents from Renewal Wellness Center, the booking confirmation, the plans for forced treatment that amounted to torture. Judge Foster reviewed evidence with sharp eyes. I'm seeing a pattern of escalating criminal behavior, abuse of legal knowledge to perpetrate frauds, and complete disregard for victims, including family members. The organized crime connections are particularly troubling. Your Honor, Richard suddenly stood, ignoring his lawyer's frantic gestures. I'd like to address the court. His lawyer looked ready to faint. Judge Harrison, I strongly advise. Sit down, counsel. I know what I'm doing. Richard faced Judge Foster with remnants of his old authority. I've spent 30 years in courtrooms. I know when the game is over. But I want to say one thing. Everything I did was for my family, to give them the life they deserved. By stealing from other families, Judge Foster's voice was ice. By attempting to kidnap your own daughter, she was destroying everything we built. You mean the criminal enterprise you built? She leaned forward. Mr. Harrison, I've reviewed your history. You had every advantage, education, connections, a mother who built an honest fortune. You chose crime not from necessity, but from greed. And when your daughter chose integrity over your corruption, you tried to destroy her. That's not love. That's narcissistic rage. Richard's composure finally cracked. He turned to me, eyes wild. You did this. You destroyed our family. No, I said, standing despite Sandra's warning hand. You destroyed our family the day you chose stealing over earning. I just refused to inherit your crimes. Judge Foster banged her gavel. Sit down, Ms. Mitchell. Mr. Harrison, control yourself or I'll add contempt charges. Patricia spoke for the first time, her voice barely audible. Anais, please. Tell them we're good parents. Tell them we loved you. The plea hung in the air like poison gas. Everyone waited for my response. You loved the idea of me, I said quietly. The daughter who'd legitimize your crimes, who'd launder your reputation. When I became myself instead of your projection, that love turned to destruction. That's not parenting. That's ownership. Marcus stood beside me. You stole my future too. Art school dreams crushed because you needed another lawyer to hide behind. But Anais saved me from becoming you. That's what real love looks like. Judge Foster had seen enough. Bail is denied. The defendants pose clear flight risk and danger to the community, particularly to their own children. They will remain in federal custody pending trial. The marshals moved forward. Richard lunged toward us, screaming about ungrateful children, family betrayal, how we'd regret this when he got out. The marshals restrained him as Patricia sobbed, reaching for children, who stepped back from her grasping hands. As they were dragged away, Richard's final words echoed, You're not Harrisons anymore. You're nothing without us. We're Mitchells, I called back, and we're everything without you. The courtroom erupted as they vanished through security doors. Reporters rushed forward, but Jennifer Walsh and her team formed a protective barrier. We moved through the chaos to a secure exit, leaving behind the spectacle of our parents' complete collapse. In the car, Marcus broke down. Not sadness, but relief, the kind that comes from finally escaping a burning building. I held him as he shook, processing the finality of what we'd witnessed. "They're really gone," he whispered. "We're really free." "We're free," I confirmed. "Now we build the life they tried to steal." Sandra's phone rang constantly. "Plea deal offers," she explained. "The government had enough evidence to bury them, but trials were expensive and time-consuming. They're offering 20 years if they plead guilty to everything." "Will they take it?" "Richard's too proud. He'll fight and lose probably, get 30 to life. Patricia might crack first. Prison is harder when you've spent your life in marble offices." We drove to Sleep Sound's new headquarters in Santa Monica. The Malibu house was home, but the company had outgrown remote work. The building buzzed with purpose developers coding new features, therapists recording content, support staff helping users find peace. Rachel met us in the lobby, tablet already extended. "The board wants an emergency meeting. The publicity from the hearing is driving unprecedented growth. We hit 500,000 users during the hearing itself." People watched parents try to destroy their child and decided they needed meditation, Marcus observed. "There's poetry in that." The board meeting was virtual chaos, 7 investors trying to process how their meditation app had become the center of a federal crime drama. Catherine Anderson maintained order with effort. "The concern," Thomas Brennan said carefully, "is that we're becoming known more for family scandal than mental health innovation." "Then we change the narrative," I said. "The Mitchell Foundation launches tomorrow. Full press conference. We turn this story from crime to redemption, from destruction to creation. And if your parents' trial creates more drama, then we use it. Every revelation about their crimes is an opportunity to show how different we are. They stole, we give. They destroyed, we build. They represent the old way of power through corruption. We represent the new way of success through service." Maria Santos smiled. "Turn weakness into strength. I like it. What's the foundation's first initiative?" Marcus stood nervous but determined. "The Free Spirit Program. Full scholarships for students whose families oppose their dreams. Art school tech boot camps. Entrepreneurship programs. Whatever passion their parents try to kill, we nurture." "How many scholarships?" "First year 100. By year 5, 1,000 annually, funded by Sleep Sound's profits and private donations." The vote was unanimous. The Mitchell Foundation would launch with a mission of liberating dreams from family dysfunction. My parents' attempts to cage their children would inspire thousands to fly free. That evening, we held a small celebration at the Malibu house. Core team, only people who'd stood by us through the storm. We toasted with champagne as the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of possibility. "To the Mitchells," Rachel raised her glass, "who proved that sometimes the best families are the ones we choose." To grandmother Eleanor, I added, "who saw this future before we did." To art school, Marcus grinned, "and parents who can't stop me anymore." We drank to freedom, to building, to the strange journey that had led us here. My phone showed 500,000 users and climbing, each one finding peace through something built on war calm, through an app born from chaos. David Martinez had sent a message, saw the hearing. "Your strength gave me strength to enter rehab. Maybe we both can build better lives from the wreckage." Even our betrayers were finding redemption. The ripples of choosing integrity over inheritance spread wider than we'd imagined. As the party wound down, I found Marcus on the deck sketching the sunset. His hands moved with new confidence, no longer hiding his gift. "What are you drawing?" "Tomorrow," he said simply. "All the tomorrows they tried to steal painted in colors they'd never understand." I sat beside him, watching art emerge from pain. The foundation would launch tomorrow. The criminal trials would drag on for years. The Harrison name would become synonymous with corruption, while the Mitchell name rose as a symbol of resilience. But tonight, we were just siblings who'd chosen each other over everything else. who'd learned that sometimes the greatest inheritance is the strength to build your own fortune clean and honest and entirely yours. The ocean sang its ancient song of endurance. We listened, we breathed, we planned futures that no one could steal. And somewhere in federal detention, our parents faced their first night knowing their children had soared beyond their cages free in ways they'd never understand. The Mitchell Foundation launch was scheduled for 10 a.m. at the Santa Monica Pier. But at 6 a.m., Sandra Steinberg called with news that would transform our press conference into something far more significant. "The FBI raided your parents' homes and offices last night," she said. "What they found—" "Anais, you need to see this before the media gets it." Marcus and I met her at her downtown office, where boxes of evidence filled an entire conference room. Federal agents had cataloged 2 decades of crimes we hadn't even imagined. Sandra pulled out files with the gravity of someone handling toxic waste. "Your father kept trophies," she began, "documents from every person he destroyed, every account he emptied, like a serial killer keeping souvenirs. But that's not the worst part." She showed us a leather journal, Richard's handwriting filling pages with meticulous records. Not just financial crimes, but personal ones. Plans to sabotage my law school competitors so I'd rank higher. Bribes paid to ensure Marcus got into Berkeley despite grades that didn't qualify. Every achievement we'd thought was ours had been purchased with stolen money and destroyed lives. He bought my admission. Marcus stared at the evidence of bribes to admissions officers. "I thought I earned it." "You would have," I assured him. "Your portfolio was strong, but he couldn't risk you failing, so he rigged the system." Just like everything else, his voice was hollow. Even our successes were fraudulent. Sandra continued revealing horrors. Patricia's files showed she'd been destroying evidence for other corrupt lawyers, running a side business in legal cover-ups. Together, they'd created a criminal network spanning California's entire legal system. But here's what changes everything. Sandra pulled out a flash drive. Security footage from their home office. They recorded themselves discussing crimes thinking it was protected by attorney-client privilege. They were wrong. We watched clips that would become evidence in dozens of trials. Richard bragging about destroying a whistleblower's career. Patricia laughing about a client whose retirement she'd stolen. And worst of all, a conversation from 3 years ago. "Anais is getting too independent," Patricia said on screen. "Those meditation apps she's always using. What if she decides she doesn't need us?" "Then we remind her who pays for everything," Richard replied. "Cut off her funds, make her beg. She'll fall in line, they always do." "And if she doesn't?" "Then we break her. Psychiatric holds conservatorship, whatever it takes." I didn't invest 2 decades in creating the perfect successor to have her walk away. She belongs to us. I felt sick. 3 years ago, before I'd even started Sleep Sound, they were already planning my cage. "There's more," Sandra warned. "They discuss Marcus's art, how to kill that dream without him suspecting. They talk about your grandmother, how they hastened her dementia to access her accounts. And Anais? They have files on potential husbands for you, men they could control who'd keep you in line." The violation felt complete. Every moment of our lives had been scripted, controlled, commodified. We weren't children to them, but investments requiring returns. My phone rang. Catherine Anderson, breathless with urgency. The Journal got leaked evidence. They're running a live blog of revelations. The entire California Bar Association is in emergency session. This is bigger than Watergate for the legal community. How much do they have? Everything. Client lists, crime details, the whole network. Your parents didn't just commit crimes, they documented everything. It's the most comprehensive evidence of legal corruption in U.S. history. I looked at Marcus, pale and shaking. At Sandra, grimly professional despite the scope of evil we were uncovering. At the boxes containing proof that our entire lives had been lies. We stick to the plan, I decided. The foundation launches as scheduled, but we expand the announcement. This isn't just about family dysfunction anymore. It's about systemic corruption and the next generation's response to it. Sandra cautioned, "You'll be painting a target on yourself. The other corrupt lawyers, judges, politicians involved, they'll come after you." "They're coming anyway. At least this way we control the narrative." We spent the next 3 hours preparing. Rachel coordinated with our PR team to adjust the press conference. Marcus worked with designers to update our presentation. I wrote a speech that would transform our personal tragedy into a rallying cry for systemic change. By 9:30, the Santa Monica Pier swarmed with media. Not just tech reporters now, but crime journalists, legal correspondents, international news teams. The Mitchell Foundation launch had become the epicenter of a scandal reshaping American justice. I stood backstage with Marcus, both of us wearing simple black suits. No power colors, no intimidation tactics. Just 2 siblings who'd survived corruption and chosen creation. "Ready?" I asked. "No," he admitted, "but grandmother would say courage isn't the absence of fear." "It's action, despite it," I finished. "Let's make her proud." We walked on stage to face hundreds of cameras and thousands of live stream viewers. The pier stretched behind us, ocean endless and honest, the perfect backdrop for truth-telling. "Good morning," I began, voice steady despite everything. "I'm Anais Mitchell, founder of Sleep Sound and survivor of systematic family corruption. Beside me is my brother, Marcus, artist and fellow survivor. We're here to launch the Mitchell Foundation. But first, we need to address what the world learned this morning." The crowd was silent, waiting. Our parents, Richard and Patricia Harrison, didn't just try to steal my company. They built a criminal empire on the destroyed dreams of hundreds. Every client who trusted them, every family who believed in justice, became victims of their greed. We stand here not just as their children, but as representatives of everyone they hurt. I paused, meeting cameras directly. The evidence revealed today shows corruption threading through California's legal system like cancer. Judges taking bribes, lawyers stealing fortunes, an entire ecosystem of exploitation dressed in respectability. This ends now. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus stepped forward, finding his voice. "They stole my future before I knew I had one," he said. "Crushed my art dreams, forced me into their mold. But art survives oppression. Creation outlasts destruction. That's why we're launching the Free Spirit program." He unveiled the design of Phoenix rising from scales of justice, creativity born from corruption's ashes. 100 full scholarships this year for students whose families try to cage their dreams. Art school tech programs, any passion that threatens parental control. Because we know what it's like to have your future held hostage by people who claim to love you. The Mitchell Foundation, I continued, will also fund legal aid for embezzlement victims, psychiatric support for family abuse survivors, and an investigation of financial crimes. We're turning our trauma into transformation, our pain into purpose. "How will you fund this?" a reporter called out. "With clean money," I emphasized. Sleep Sound's profits, verified donations, transparent accounting. Everything our parents weren't. We're also establishing a whistleblower fund. Those with evidence of legal corruption can come forward, safely supported financially and legally. The questions came fast and fierce. About the evidence, the trials, our plans. We answered honestly, without the lawyer speak our parents had taught us to hide behind. Then came the hard question from a New York Times reporter. "Your parents claim you're mentally unstable, that this is all delusion. How do you respond?" I smiled, sad but certain. "They're right that I'm not stable in their definition. I'm not stable in corruption, can't balance on foundations of fraud. My instability is called integrity. My delusion is believing business can be built on helping rather than harming. If that's mental illness, may we all catch it." And the kidnapping attempt, was their confession. When you try to cage what you can't control, you admit your own powerlessness. They showed the world who they really are. Criminals in custom suits, predators with law degrees. But here's what they never understood. You can't imprison truth. It always breaks free. Marcus showed his artwork pieces created during our weeks of freedom. Each one transformed pain into beauty, legal documents becoming paper sculptures of birds in flight. This is what survival looks like, taking what tried to destroy you and making it the material for your masterpiece. As we announced the Foundation's board, Catherine Anderson ethical lawyers, volunteering time therapists, specializing in family trauma, my phone buzzed with notifications. The criminal cases had just expanded. 17 more arrests across California, the corruption network unraveling. Final question. I said, knowing we needed to end strong. Someone will ask why we're doing this publicly instead of handling it privately like a good family would. I thought of grandmother Eleanor building her business while her family scorned her. Of every student whose parents would crush their dreams in boardrooms and dining rooms. Of the silence that enables oppression. Because privacy protects predators. Because family secrets become family sickness. Because someone watching right now is trapped in their own corrupt dynasty, thinking they're alone. You're not alone. We survived. We thrived. We built something beautiful from the ashes of what tried to burn us. Marcus added, the Mitchell Foundation's door is open. Bring your dreams, your truth, your refusal to be caged. We'll help you fly. We left the stage to thunderous applause, but more importantly, to hundreds of messages already flooding the Foundation's website. Students seeking help. Lawyers offering pro bono services, donors wanting to support clean money and honest dreams. In the green room, Sandra showed us Patricia's lawyer's latest communication. She wanted to make a deal to testify against Richard and the entire network in exchange for leniency. She's turning on him, Marcus asked. Criminals always do eventually. Their loyalty only extends as far as their self-interest. Sandra paused. She's also asking to see you both before she testifies. We looked at each other silently, debating. The woman who tried to cage us wanted an audience for her confession. No, we said simultaneously. She made her choice, I added. Now she lives with consequences. Our time is for building, not revisiting ruins. As we left the pier, protesters had gathered, not against us, but in support. Signs reading, "Free the Dreams" and "Truth over Dynasty," and "Mitchell means hope." The movement had already begun, bigger than our personal story. That evening back in Malibu, we watched news coverage that called it the Great Legal Reckoning. Firms across the country were opening their books, terrified of harboring their own Harrisons. Law schools announced new ethics initiatives. The Bar Association proposed reforms that would have prevented our parents' decades of crime. "Real change," Marcus said quietly. "Real systemic change from our pain." "Grandmother always said the best revenge is a life well lived," I replied. "But I think she'd approve of this version too, a life that lifts others while rising." The Foundation website showed thousands of applications already. Students whose parents demanded medicine while they yearned for music. Writers forced into accounting. Entrepreneurs trapped in family businesses they'd never chosen. We'd spend the coming months reviewing each one, funding dreams, breaking cages. The trials would continue, Richard fighting to the end, Patricia singing like a canary, the network collapsing member by member, but we wouldn't watch. We had futures to build. As midnight approached, I recorded one last meditation for sleep sound. Tonight, you might be lying awake trapped in someone else's plan for your life. Breathe with me. In, hold, out. Your dreams are not delusions. Your passions are not phases. Your truth is not negotiable. Tomorrow, take one small step toward who you really are, then another, until you're running free, leaving behind everyone who tried to clip your wings. You have permission to fly. You always did. I uploaded it as Marcus painted beside me, both of us creating in the space our parents had tried to steal. 500,000 users would find peace tonight. 100 students would find freedom this year. And 2 siblings had found that the best inheritance isn't money or name or legacy. It's the courage to build something better from the rubble of what was. The call came at 3 a.m. 6 weeks after the foundation launch. Sandra's voice was electric with possibility. Patricia flipped completely. She's given the FBI everything: passwords, hidden accounts, the entire network. They've frozen $60 million in offshore funds. And Anais? She revealed something about your grandmother's death. I sat up in bed, instantly awake. What about it? It wasn't natural. Patricia has medical records showing Richard increased Eleanor's medication doses. He hastened her dementia to access her accounts. It's murder, Anais. They murdered your grandmother. The room spun. We'd known they stole from her, exploited her condition. But murder. The violation went deeper than even my darkest suspicions. Does Marcus know? I'm calling you first. This changes everything. Murder charges mean life without parole. It also means her will could be invalidated. All assets would return to her estate, to you and Marcus as rightful heirs. I stumbled to the kitchen needing coffee to process this. They'd killed the only family member who truly loved us. Murdered her for money they'd waste on poker and pretense. What does Patricia want in exchange? Witness protection. She's terrified of the people Richard owes money to. Apparently, the gambling debts were to genuinely dangerous people. She's been getting death threats since his arrest. Let her rot. I understand the emotion, but she has evidence on 47 other corrupt legal officials. This could clean out California's entire justice system. The FBI is offering her a deal. Marcus appeared in the doorway, drawn by my distress. I put Sandra on speaker and watched his face crumble as she repeated the news. Our grandmother, our champion, murdered by our parents for her clean money. I want to see the medical records, he said quietly. All of it. If we're going to live with this truth, I need to understand it completely. Sandra promised to send everything. After she hung up, we sat in dark silence, mourning fresh wounds on old scars. Then Marcus did something unexpected. He laughed. Not humor, but release the kind that borders on tears. She knew. Grandmother knew what they were doing. Remember her letter, let him take the money. It will be his ruin. She saw her own murder coming and chose to let it happen to expose them. That's insane. Is it? She knew we'd never break free while they had power. Her death started their downfall. The missing money made them desperate. Desperation made them sloppy. Sloppiness led to exposure. He wiped his eyes. She played the longest game of all. By morning, the news had broken. Harrison parents charged with murder dominated headlines. Legal Twitter exploded with disbelief that respected attorneys could sink so low. But the evidence was overwhelming. Medical records, bank transfers, time to medication increases Patricia's recorded confession. Our phones rang nonstop. Every news outlet wanted exclusive interviews about our murdered grandmother. The foundation website crashed from traffic as thousands offered condolences and donations. But we had work to do. The emergency board meeting convened at 7 a.m. Sleep Sound's valuation had hit $100 million based on user growth and the Meridian Partnership's success. But this scandal threatened everything. We need to consider rebranding, Thomas Brennan suggested. The Harrison connection is now tied to murder. We're Mitchells, I reminded him, have been since this started, and we're not running from the truth. Our origin story includes murder and survival. That makes us stronger, not weaker. Catherine Anderson agreed. Every user who's overcome trauma will relate. We're not hiding from darkness. We're proof that light can grow there. Speaking of growth, Rachel interrupted. We hit 1 million users overnight. The murder news made people curious, but the app's quality made them stay. Engagement is up 300%. We voted to stay the course. No rebranding, no hiding. The Mitchell name would stand for transformation, not denial. The afternoon brought unexpected visitors. FBI agents, but not for questioning. They carried boxes of recovered assets from the offshore accounts. Your grandmother's legitimate holdings, Agent Chen explained, art jewelry investment certificates. Estimated value $35 million. It's being returned to her rightful heirs. We stared at boxes containing grandmother Eleanor's true legacy, paintings she'd collected from struggling artists who became famous, jewelry from her import business days, stock certificates in companies she'd believed in before anyone else. There's also this. Agent Chen handed me a safety deposit box key from her personal effects, Bank of America downtown branch. Whatever's in there wasn't in any official records. Marcus and I went immediately, accompanied by security. The bank manager, awed by the media attention, escorted us personally to the vault. The box was small, unassuming. Inside, we found treasure beyond money. Letters, hundreds of them, to us dated years into the future, sealed and waiting. The first was dated for my law school graduation. My dearest Anais, if you're reading this on schedule, you've just become what they wanted. I'm proud of you for surviving, but know this. The law degree is not your identity. It's your disguise. Wear it until you're strong enough to show your true colors. All my love, grandmother. Marcus's letter for his college graduation. Sweet Marcus, they'll try to break your artist's spirit with talk of stability and tradition. Art is the most stable force in humanity. It outlasts empires. Paint your truth. I'll be watching from wherever souls go when bodies fail. Letter after letter, decade after decade. Advice for our 30s, 40s, 50s. Wedding letters if we chose marriage. Business guidance if we chose entrepreneurship. And for each major betrayal, we'd face warnings and comfort. She'd known everything. Our parents' crimes, their plans for us, even her own murder. And she'd chosen to arm us with wisdom instead of warnings, knowing we'd need hope more than fear. The final letter was dated simply, when they're gone. My warriors, if you're reading this, you've survived them. Richard and Patricia were broken long before you were born, twisted by greed. I couldn't love out of them. But you two, you're my redemption. Every crime they commit, counter with kindness. Every life they destroy, rebuild two more. Turn our family name from curse to blessing. The money is just paper. The real inheritance is in your hearts, the courage to build beauty from ashes. Use it well. Eternally yours, Anais Mitchell. I never took the Harrison name, neither should you. We sat in the bank vault, crying over letters from a ghost who'd loved us better than the living. She'd spent her final years creating a roadmap for our survival, knowing she wouldn't see us use it. That evening, we held an emergency foundation meeting. The recovered $35 million would fund expansions we'd only dreamed about. Marcus proposed art therapy centers in every major city. I suggested free legal clinics for abuse survivors. Together, we imagined an empire of healing built on the bones of corruption. We'll call it the Anais Mitchell Memorial Initiative, Marcus said. Let her name eclipse theirs forever. The news broke during our planning session. Richard had been denied bail again after the murder charges. Video showed him being dragged to solitary confinement, screaming about ungrateful children and stolen futures. He'd aged decades in weeks, the golden judge reduced to a caged killer. Patricia's deal was finalized. She'd testify against everyone in exchange for 20 years instead of life. The woman who'd worn Chanel to court would wear prison orange for 2 decades. Her first testimony was scheduled for next week. Do we attend? Marcus asked. No, we build. Every minute watching them fall is a minute not spent rising. But the universe had other plans. That night, David Martinez appeared at our gate, not the broken man from the coffee shop, but someone transformed. Rehab had restored color to his skin, purpose to his posture. "I'm not here for forgiveness," he said when security let him in. "I'm here with information. There's something about your parents' network nobody knows yet." We listened as he revealed the final piece. A storage unit in Riverside paid for in cash, where Richard kept his most sensitive files, including David believed evidence about other murders. Other murders. Your grandmother wasn't the first elderly client whose death benefited them. The FBI doesn't know about this unit. I only know because Richard got drunk once and mentioned his insurance policy. We called Sandra immediately. Within hours, federal agents had warrants. The storage unit revealed a catalog of horrors evidence of 6 other elderly clients who died mysteriously after signing over assets. Richard hadn't just killed once. He was a serial killer with a law degree. The media explosion was nuclear. Every news channel led with the story. Serial killer judge. The Harrison murders. California's darkest legal secret. Our phones became unusable from the volume of calls. "We need to disappear for a while," Sandra advised. "This is beyond scandal now. This is true crime history. Every documentary maker in the world will want access." But we couldn't disappear. The foundation had received 50,000 applications. Sleep Sound users needed stability, not a vanishing founder. We had work to do. So we did something unexpected. We live-streamed. From the Malibu house, with the ocean as witness, we addressed the world. No scripts, no lawyers, just truth. "Our father is a serial killer," I began. "Our mother was his accomplice. They murdered our grandmother and 6 other innocent people for money. This is our reality, but it's not our identity." Marcus continued, "We're not here to defend or explain them. We're here to promise that every life they took will inspire 100 lives saved. Through the foundation, through Sleep Sound, through refusing to let their darkness win." We announce the Anais Mitchell Justice Fund free legal representation for families suspecting elder abuse, the memorial scholarships for the other victims, the expansion of Sleep Sound's free tier to ensure money never prevented anyone from finding peace. "They killed for greed," I said. "We'll live for giving. They destroyed for power. We'll build for purpose. That's how we honor the dead and protect the living." The live stream hit 10 million views in an hour. Donations poured in from around the world. Other survivors of family violence shared their stories. A movement crystallized around a simple truth: you are not your parents' crimes. As midnight approached, exhausted from the day's revelations, Marcus and I stood on the deck. The ocean was calm, indifferent to human drama. Stars sparkled like grandmother's jewelry, beautiful and distant. "Think she knew it would get this big?" Marcus asked. "She knew we'd survive. The rest is just details." My phone showed Sleep Sound at 1.2 million users. The foundation had funded 300 dreams. Our parents faced 7 murder charges each. The Harrison legal dynasty had become a true crime phenomenon, while the Mitchell legacy grew in opposition. "What would you say to them?" Marcus wondered. "If you could..." I thought about it. What words for parents who'd chosen murder over love, who'd killed their own mother for money they'd waste, who'd built a life on other people's deaths? Nothing, I decided. They're not worth words anymore, only actions. Every good thing we do erases a little more of their evil. That's the only conversation left. We went inside to plan tomorrow's work. More scholarships, to approve more dreams, to fund more lives to save. Our parents had made us orphans through their own choices, but in losing them, we'd found ourselves. And somewhere in the night, Grandmother Eleanor's spirit rested peacefully, knowing her sacrifice had birthed a redemption greater than even she had dared imagine. Patricia's testimony began on a rainy Tuesday that matched the mood of the packed courtroom. From behind bulletproof glass necessary, given the death threats from Richard's creditors, she looked like a ghost of her former self. Prison orange had replaced Prada. Reality had replaced pretense. I hadn't planned to attend, But when the federal prosecutor called saying Patricia had specifically requested my presence, something made me agree. Marcus chose to stay away, spending the day teaching art to foundation scholars. We each processed trauma differently. She took the stand with none of her old confidence. Her voice, once sharp enough to cut opposing counsel, trembled as she took the oath. The prosecutor, James Wright, led her through the architecture of crime she'd helped build. Mrs. Harrison, how long were you aware of your husband's embezzlement? 15 years, since the Westbrook estate. And you helped conceal it? Yes, I created shell companies, falsified records, moved money through 17 different accounts to hide the trail. For 3 hours, she dissected their criminal empire with the precision she'd once used to protect corporations. Names, dates, amounts. Judges bribed clients, robbed colleagues, corrupted. The court reporter could barely keep up with the avalanche of admitted crimes. Then came the murders. Tell us about Anais Mitchell. Patricia's composure cracked. Richard's mother. She had early dementia but was still lucid enough to ask questions about her accounts. Richard said we needed to accelerate the timeline. Meaning, murder her. The words fell like stones in water. He researched medication interactions. I falsified medical directives. We increased her doses, gradually making it look like natural progression. Why not just steal the money? She was going to change her will. She'd started suspecting, asking about Anais, saying she wanted to leave everything to her grandchildren directly. Patricia looked at me for the first time. She loved you more than she loved him. That's why he killed her. The prosecutor presented evidence of 6 other murders. Each elderly, each wealthy, each trusting the Harrison law firm with their final affairs. Patricia confirmed every detail with the mechanical precision of someone beyond redemption. My God, someone whispered in the gallery. They were running a murder factory. During recess, Patricia's lawyer approached me. She wants 5 minutes, please. Against every instinct, I agreed. In a secured meeting room separated by glass and watched by guards, I faced the woman who'd given me life and tried to steal it back. You look well, she began. No small talk. You have 5 minutes. She nodded, accepting the boundary. I know forgiveness is impossible. I'm not asking for it. But I need you to know something about that night at Charlotte's. The kidnapping attempt. I couldn't go through with it. She leaned forward, desperate to be believed. When the EMTs arrived, when I saw your face, I realized I'd become a monster. That's why I testified. Not for a deal, for the truth. You testified to save yourself 20 years. I testified because Richard will never stop. Even from prison, he has contacts, resources. He's planning something. Her voice dropped. There's a man, Vincent Moretti. Richard owes him $3 million from poker games. Moretti thinks you have it. My blood chilled. And Richard told him you do. Gave him your addresses, your routines, promised him the money once he gets out. She was crying now, mascara running in black rivers. I couldn't let him hurt you anymore. That's why I'm really testifying, to keep him locked away forever. Oh, why should I believe you? Because I have nothing left to gain. I'll die in prison either way, but maybe knowing I warned you balances one sin out of thousands. The guard signaled time was up. As I stood, Patricia pressed her palm against the glass. I know I was never the mother you deserved, but you became the woman I should have been. That's my only comfort now. I left without responding. There were no words for someone who'd murdered your grandmother, then warned you about danger. No absolution for a mother who'd caged her children, then set them free through her crimes. Outside, Jennifer Walsh waited with enhanced security. We've been monitoring Moretti. He's real and he's looking for you, but we're ready. The afternoon session revealed more horrors. Financial crimes stretching to Washington, New York international markets. The Harrison network had infected American justice like a virus. By day's end, 17 more indictments were announced. That evening, I returned to find Marcus had transformed our living room into an art studio. 5 foundation scholars worked alongside him, creating pieces for their first exhibition. The joy in that room, the pure creation, felt like antibiotics after infection. "How was it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Educational. We have a security situation to discuss, but first show me what you're making." He'd painted grandmother Eleanor from memory, but surrounded her with light that dissolved shadowy figures reaching for her. "It's called inheritance," he explained, "what she left us versus what tried to take her." The scholars shared their own work. Photography, documenting the journey from family oppression to artistic freedom. Sculptures made from rejection letters transformed into acceptance. Music composed from the dissonance of disappointed parents resolved into personal harmony. "This is what we're building," I told them. "Not just careers, but proof that creativity survives control." Sandra arrived as the scholars were leaving. "We need to discuss Moretti and something else. The Federal Asset Recovery Team found more of your grandmother's holdings. Hidden accounts Richard didn't know about. She was playing a longer game than anyone realized." The numbers were staggering. 50 million in trusts Richard had never found. Properties in Europe he'd never discovered. A venture capital fund that had quietly invested in companies now worth billions. "Oh, she wasn't just wealthy," Sandra explained. "She was one of the smartest investors of her generation, and she hid it all from Richard knowing he'd steal it. Everything's been growing waiting for you." Marcus laughed incredulously. "So while they murdered her for millions, she had billions they couldn't touch." The ultimate revenge. Let them crime themselves into prison while her real legacy waited safe. Sandra pulled out more documents. "But this creates complications. With holdings this vast, you're not just wealthy, you're powerful. People will come after you differently now." "Like Moretti. Him first, but others will follow. You need more than security. You need strategy." We spent hours planning. Professional security teams, legal structures to protect assets, public relations to control narrative, the infrastructure of wealth I'd never wanted but now needed to survive having. At midnight, Marcus posed a question that stopped everything. "What do we do with it all?" "What do you mean?" "Grandmother left us billions. We could disappear live quietly, forever. Why stay public? Why keep fighting?" I thought about the million users finding peace through sleep sound, the thousands applying for foundation help, the corruption still being exposed through Patricia's testimony. Because running would make their crimes meaningless. Every person we help proves their evil didn't win. Every dream we fund shows money can build instead of destroy. We stay visible to stay accountable. Even with targets on our backs? Especially then, grandmother faced down worse with less. We honor her by being braver than our fears. The next morning brought Vincent Moretti's move, not violence, but lawyers. He sued for Richard's supposed debts, claiming we'd inherited his obligations along with assets. The frivolous suit would fail, but signaled escalation. "He's testing defenses," Jennifer Walsh explained, "seeing how we respond to legal pressure before trying other methods." Then we respond definitively. I called our legal team. Counter-sue for harassment, seek restraining orders, make it clear that coming after us costs more than any imagined debt. While lawyers battled, we had work to do. The Foundation's first exhibition opened that weekend, showcasing art from dreams nearly killed by family opposition. Marcus curated with the eye of someone who'd almost lost his own vision. The opening drew unexpected guests. Other tech founders who'd survived family trauma, artists whose parents had demanded real jobs, writers whose families had burned manuscripts, a solidarity of souls who'd chosen themselves over others' expectations. "You started something," a filmmaker told me. She documented her journey from pre-med to Sundance parents disowning her along the way. The Mitchell Foundation isn't just funding dreams, it's giving us permission to exist. Lawrence Sterling from Meridian, attended announcing their foundation donation of $10 million. Mental health and family trauma are linked. Supporting one requires addressing both. But the evening's surprise came from Charlotte. My aunt arrived alone looking fragile but determined. "I close my practice," she announced. "Couldn't be a therapist after enabling such sickness. I'm volunteering with the foundation now if you'll have me, helping families heal instead of hiding their dysfunction." Marcus studied her carefully. "Why?" "Because I spent decades protecting the wrong people. Patricia was my sister, but she was also a killer. I chose blood over justice. That ends now." We let her stay. Redemption had to start somewhere, and she'd at least acknowledged her complicity. The exhibition succeeded beyond dreams, raising millions for more scholarships. Art born from pain funding art, born from joy. That night, news broke Richard had been attacked in prison. Moretti's associates demanding their money. He'd survived, but barely. The golden judge who'd ruled courtrooms now hid in solitary fearing shadows he'd created. "Do we help him?" Marcus asked, watching the news. "He made his choices. We make ours." I turned off the television. "Tomorrow we announce the next foundation expansion. Let him hear about it from his cell. Let him know his murders funded thousands of dreams." "That's cold." "That's justice. He killed for money. We'll use that same money to save lives. Every scholarship is grandmother's revenge." The week ended with Patricia's testimony concluding. 100 hours of confessed crimes, enough evidence to reshape California's legal system for generations. She'd be transferred to federal prison soon, her usefulness expended. Sandra brought final numbers from the asset recovery. Combined with grandmother's hidden fortune, Marcus and I were worth $4 billion. Enough to fund dreams for centuries. Enough to make us permanent targets. Enough to build something our parents could never tear down. What would grandmother do? Marcus wondered aloud. I held her compass, still pointing true north. Build something beautiful. That's what she wrote. So, that's what we'll do. The reckoning was complete. Our parents faced life in cages they'd built with their own hands. Their victims would receive justice through our foundations. Their crimes would fund countless redemptions. And we'd build something so beautiful, so helpful, so lasting that Harrison would become a footnote while Mitchell became synonymous with hope. The war was over. The construction had just begun. 6 months after the reckoning, I stood on a stage at Stanford University, the place I'd fled in shame now inviting me back as their commencement speaker. The irony wasn't lost on anyone least of all the law school administration who'd once threatened to expel me for abandoning my responsibilities. 10,000 graduates and their families filled the amphitheater. Among them sat Marcus, receiving his honorary degree for establishing art therapy programs that had revolutionized trauma treatment. Charlotte was there too, now running our family reconciliation initiative. Even David Martinez attended clean for 8 months and working with our foundation to help others escape addiction. But the speech I gave wasn't about them or even about me. It was about the empty seats, the students whose dreams had been strangled by family expectations, whose potential withered under parental control. 2 years ago, I sat where you sit, I began, dressed in a cap and gown I never earned, carrying the weight of everyone else's dreams. My father needed me to be a lawyer to legitimize his crimes. My mother needed me to be successful to fund their lifestyle. Everyone needed me to be something other than myself. The crowd was silent, recognizing truth in my words. So I ran, dropped out 3 months before graduation, built a company in secret, and discovered that the greatest inheritance isn't money or reputation, it's the courage to disappoint people who never truly saw you. I talked about Sleep Sound now at 10 million users globally, helping people find peace in a world that profits from their anxiety. About the Mitchell Foundation, which had funded 5,000 dreams in 6 months. About choosing creation over destruction, even when destruction was all you'd been taught. Your parents might be in this audience proud of what you've achieved. Celebrate with them. But some of you know the other truth, that your success came despite family, not because of it. That every achievement was a battle against people who claimed to love you while trying to cage you. I saw nods, tears, recognition. These were my people survivors disguised as graduates. Today you commence, not just from university, but from obligation to be anything other than authentically yourself. The world needs your truth, not your performance, your passion, not your compliance, your dreams, not their projections. The speech ended with an announcement the Mitchell Foundation was establishing a permanent fund at Stanford for students whose families withdrew support over career choices, full rides for following unprofitable passions, safety nets for those who dared to jump. Because everyone deserves what I finally found: the freedom to fail at your own dreams rather than succeed at someone else's. The standing ovation felt like absolution. Afterward, at the reception, hundreds approached with their own stories. Parents who'd hidden acceptance letters, families who'd burned art supplies, trust funds weaponized against authenticity. You made it safe to tell the truth, one graduate whispered, showing me her mechanical engineering degree. My parents wanted medicine. I wanted to build rockets. Your story gave me permission to choose myself. That evening, we held the Foundation's first annual gala at the California Science Center under the Space Shuttle Endeavour. 500 donors, supporters, and scholarship recipients gathered to celebrate what we'd built from ruins. Marcus unveiled his masterpiece, a 60-foot mural depicting our journey. At one end, shadowy figures grasped at two small children. In the middle, chaos and destruction, courtrooms and cages. But the final panel showed explosion into light, thousands of figures rising, creating building free. It's called Inheritance Transformed, he explained to the crowd, because what they gave us wasn't love or money or wisdom. It was pain, and we chose to make that pain productive. Catherine Anderson announced that Sleep Sound's IPO had been approved. We'd go public next month at a $5 billion valuation. But more importantly, we were establishing the industry's first mental health fund. Every employee would receive free therapy. Every user in crisis would have access to support. Because a meditation app born from trauma understands that healing isn't profitable, it's necessary. The surprise guest made everyone gasp. Lawrence Sterling announced Meridian's billion-dollar commitment to integrating mental health into standard medical care using Sleep Sound as the foundation. Anais Mitchell proved that pain can become purpose. Now, we're scaling that transformation across healthcare. Within 5 years, every patient will have access to mental health tools as readily as antibiotics. But the evening's most powerful moment came from an unexpected source. Sandra Steinberg took the stage, usually comfortable only in courtrooms. "I've prosecuted criminals for 30 years, she began, but the Harrison case changed me. Not because of its scope, I've seen worse crimes, but because of its outcome. Most victims stay broken. The Mitchells chose building." She announced her retirement from prosecution to run the Foundation's legal division full-time. "I spent decades putting people in cages. I want to spend whatever years remain opening doors." As midnight approached, Marcus and I stood on the rooftop garden looking over Los Angeles sparkling below. The city where our parents had built their criminal empire now hosted our headquarters for healing. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" he asked. "Honestly, I thought they'd destroy us, that we'd end up as cautionary tales about defying family." I touched grandmother's compass, now worn smooth from carrying. But she knew better, saw further. "The trials start next month." Richard's murder trial would be a circus. 7 counts of first-degree murder facing lethal injection or life without parole. Patricia would testify against him, the final betrayal in a marriage built on mutual destruction. The other corrupt lawyers and judges would fall like dominoes. We won't attend, I decided. They've taken enough of our time. Let justice handle them while we handle joy. Speaking of joy, Marcus pulled out an envelope. Acceptance letter. The Sorbonne wants me as artist in residence, teaching trauma recovery through art. Paris, that's incredible. Only if you're okay running things solo for a year. Are you kidding? Go, build, create, show the French how Americans heal. I hugged him tight. Grandmother would be so proud. Of both of us. He returned the embrace. We actually did it, built something beautiful from their ashes. The gala ended with a video message from recipients worldwide. Artists painting their first exhibitions, entrepreneurs launching dreams, students pursuing passions their families forbade. Each story proof that funding freedom multiplies infinitely. As guests departed, many pressed checks into our hands, not tax write-offs, but investments in liberation. By evening's end, we'd raised enough to fund another 1,000 dreams. Vincent Moretti had been arrested that morning, caught trying to extort other victims' families. Our security had worked with the FBI to document his every move. He'd joined Richard in facing justice, another predator caged by his own greed. Back in Malibu, I sat in my meditation room recording a special session for the 10 million marks. What welcome to this moment of celebration, not of numbers, but of courage. 10 million people choosing peace in a world that profits from suffering. 10 million souls saying, I deserve rest in a culture that demands constant motion. Some of you found us through pain, family trauma, workplace toxicity, relationships that broke you. Others through curiosity, wondering if an app could really help you sleep. However, you arrived, you stayed, and in staying, you joined a revolution. Because choosing peace is revolutionary. Prioritizing your mental health is rebellion. Saying no to others' expectations is the ultimate freedom. Every time you press play, you declare independence from anyone who told you rest was weakness. Breathe with me now. In, hold, out. With each breath, release what was never yours to carry. Others' disappointments, family dysfunction, inherited trauma. Let it all go. You are not responsible for healing those who hurt you. You're only responsible for healing yourself. And in that healing, miracles happen. The child of criminals builds an empire of care. The silenced find their voice. The caged discover they always had wings. Your transformation inspires others' liberation. Your healing becomes hereditary. So, celebrate this moment, not because we're special, but because we're proof you can build beauty from any beginning. You can choose love over legacy. You can create the family you deserve, even if it's just you and your truth. Welcome to 10 million strong. May your sleep be peaceful, your dreams be vivid, and your tomorrows be freely chosen. Until next time, this is Anais Mitchell reminding you that the only inheritance that matters is the courage to become yourself. I uploaded this session as dawn broke over the Pacific. Within hours, it had 1 million plays. Comments poured in from users sharing their own family break stories, their own choices of authenticity over approval. The phone rang. An unknown number, but Jennifer Walsh had cleared it. I answered cautiously. Is this Anais Mitchell? The voice was elderly, fragile. Oh, speaking. This is Margaret Harrison, Richard's sister. I've been estranged from the family for 40 years. I'm calling to say thank you. Another relative emerging from shadows. Thank you for stopping him. I tried to warn Mother about his nature, but she wouldn't listen. When I refused to join his firm, he destroyed my reputation, had me disbarred on false charges. I've watched from afar as he ruined lives. You did what I couldn't. I'm sorry for what he did to you. Don't be. His cruelty forced me to build my own life. I'm a teacher now. Special education. Every child I help is my revenge against his elitism. She paused. I'd like to donate to the foundation, anonymously. Consider it Eleanor's youngest daughter finally getting to help her grandchildren. We talked for an hour, another survivor, another story of choosing ethics over family. She'd donate $5 million her life savings to fund special education advocates for families fighting school systems. He destroyed my law career, she said before hanging up, but you've destroyed his legacy. That's justice enough for me. The sun climbed higher, illuminating a day of infinite possibility. Marquez was packing for Paris. The foundation team was reviewing applications. Sleep Sounds developers were building features I dreamed of in law school bathrooms. My phone showed messages from users, donors, dreamers, and survivors, each one a thread in the tapestry that we were weaving from our parents' unraveled lies. But the message that mattered most came from a teenager in Ohio. My parents say art is worthless. They're forcing me into accounting. But I saw your story and applied for the foundation scholarship. I got it. I start art school in the fall. You saved my life. How do I thank you? I typed back, build something beautiful. That's thanks enough. Because that's what we do. We take inheritance of trauma and transform it into legacies of liberation. We prove that creation beats destruction. We show that you can build heaven from the ashes of someone else's hell. The ocean sang its eternal song as I planned the next phase. More scholarships, more healing, more proof that Mitchell meant hope. Somewhere in federal prison, Richard Harrison counted days he'd never see freedom. Patricia practiced testimony that would bury him deeper. Their criminal empire had collapsed into cages of their own construction. But in Malibu, in Paris, in 10 million phones worldwide, their children built something they could never understand, a future where love wasn't leverage, where success meant service, where the only inheritance that mattered was the courage to become exactly who you were meant to be. The Harrison dynasty had ended in handcuffs and headlines. The Mitchell legacy had just begun. And somewhere beyond grandmother, Eleanor smiled, knowing her sacrifice had birthed something more beautiful than even she had dared to dream. 2 grandchildren who transformed poison into medicine, who'd proven that the best revenge isn't living well, it's helping others live free. The compass pointed true north toward a horizon unlimited by others' limitations. We followed it into the future, building beauty with every step. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt trapped by family expectations or dreams that weren't your own, I want to hear from you. Share in the comments. What dream did your family try to kill? What passion are you pursuing despite opposition? What cage are you planning to escape? Your story matters. Your dreams deserve funding. Your truth needs speaking. If you believe in turning trauma into transformation and funding dreams instead of destroying them, please like this video. Subscribe to hear more stories of liberation. Share this with someone who needs permission to choose themselves over family pressure. Because you are not alone. You are not crazy for wanting more. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are brave. You are worthy, and you deserve to build something beautiful from whatever beginning you've been given. Thank you for joining this journey. Thank you for believing that Mitchell means hope. Thank you for proving that we can inherit trauma and choose to pass on healing instead. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, keep choosing yourself. The world needs what you're brave enough to create.